Hey everybody, Chris the Old Ass Retro Gamer here. Welcome to the first episode in the 2022 edition of my video game collection live streams. So I think it was like 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, that I started doing a bunch of live streams to like not show off, but to like catalog my collection in a certain way that, you know, people can see that the things that I say I own are actually in my hand. So in case something happens, like there's a fire or I get robbed or something, you know, I actually said, look, it was in my hand. I owned it. It's not just in an app on my phone that says that I had it. You know, there's no real proof. So I thought it'd be a good idea to every couple of years do like an updated collection series of streams to constantly keep my collection up to date. And number two, it's really fun to do these kinds of streams to me. I get to chit chat with everybody that's watching. I get to interact. And three, it's more content for the channel. And as if you followed me, you know that I don't do a lot of edited content that much anymore. So this is a good and freaking show off. Thanks, Peter. I was expecting you to be the one to understand. Hurt my heart. But anyway, so today being the first episode in a very long series, we're going to go from the oldest consoles and move along to the newest. And the oldest consoles that I collect for, I don't collect anything for the Odyssey. I don't collect those Pong machines or anything like that. The oldest console I collect for is the Atari 2600. It was my first console that I ever had. My dad had bought one in, I honestly can't remember because I was like super, super young, but like 79, I want to say. And it was mostly because he wanted it. He didn't think that my brother, my brother wasn't even born yet. He didn't think that I would be interested in something like that. Because I was not the most coordinated kid. So hand-eye coordination, probably thinking like, nah, Chris ain't going to be into that. But it turned out I was. And I ended up playing it more than he did. And then he graduated to an Atari computer where he was mostly playing RPGs like Ultima and Planetfall and Zork and stuff like that, like word games and Mule. And I was the Atari kid. You know, I played the Atari. And we had an Atari in our house that we used, I want to say until like 89. When everyone had upgraded to an NES, we were still using the Atari because according to my parents, like we already had one console. What do we need another one for? It still works. The games are still fun. You don't need another one. My parents are just being cheap. Eventually, we whined and cried about it so much that they ended up buying us an NES. But we were the, you know, of all the gamer friends that me and my brother had, we were the ones that were representing the Atari the longest. Not sad about it. Wish I could have played some of those NES games earlier than we did. But whatevs. Games is games, as I have never said before. So let's get into it. I do have quite a bit of Atari games. I don't have anything for the 5200 or the 7800. If the Retron 77, which is the was it Retrokin? Was that what the name is? Retrokin? Retro. I think it's the HD Atari console. If it was updated to play 7800 games, I would definitely start buying 7800 games because I had a 7800 in the early 2000s. It's backwards compatible, so I was able to play 2600 and 7800 games on it. That would be awesome if it did double duty like that, but I don't think it does. I might have to update it if it does. I still don't have a console. I feel you, bruh. But one of my collecting goals since the very beginning, when I got back into it in 2013, wasn't to have the biggest collection. It wasn't to get all these heavy hitters so I can brag about it online. It was, one, to regain the games that I had, not only when I was a kid, the games that I really liked playing and I enjoyed and I had fond memories of, but also regain the stuff that I had to sell off in 2011 when I had lost my job of 11 years and had to find a way to pay the bills for about 4 months because, you know, like I said, I'd lost my job and money doesn't just grow on trees. So I ended up selling most of my collection for pennies on the dollar because I was not doing any sort of research. Not like games were super expensive back in 2011, but like I had a lot of heavy hitters and I sold them off for dirt cheap, not realizing that they were worth a lot. But like I said, trying to get the games that I had and I enjoyed the most when I was a kid and regain the stuff that I had in 2011 that I had to sell. The Atari games are the ones that I've been collecting, are the ones that I've always had, that I had in my collection when I was a kid. We had a very large collection when I was a kid. My dad was like the cheapest guy you ever met. He would not buy a game brand new unless it was called E.T., but he was always buying games on clearance. He never bought them day one. It was always, oh my God, that game used to be $50. I honestly cannot tell you what a brand new Atari game was back in the day. Didn't pay attention to that kind of thing because didn't have a job, didn't have a wallet. My allowance was 50 cents. That's how old I am. But like my dad would only buy games when they were like on clearance or whatever. So like my dad would go to like the old electronics store and be like, oh, look, those games are like $3, $4, $5. Yeah, I'll grab a couple. Or like we had a game that we didn't like. You know, like we had to agree on this. It was either me, my brother, or my dad. We didn't like a game. We would trade it to somebody who wanted it for something else. But we did have a decent, I want to say when I was a kid, we had like a decent library of maybe 60 Atari games. Back in high school, I ended up selling most of them to a girl that I was hanging out with in my math class. It was my algebra class. And she was still playing the Atari. She didn't care about video games in general. But when I told her that I still had an Atari and all these games, she was like, I still play my Atari every day. If you want to get rid of them, let me know. So I was selling her our collection in order to get money to go and buy Nintendo games. At that point, yeah, it was still Nintendo at that point. I was selling the games to get money to buy Nintendo games at the local toy store. But I still have fond memories of playing my Atari. It is just a bunch of little squares jumping around on screen. You got to use your imagination to play most of these games because what is on screen, what is displayed, is not necessarily what you think the thing you're supposed to be playing as looks like. Usually it's just a dot, and it shoots other little dots. Girls ruin everything. The only one he bought on day one was E.T. Only one. Only one. And now that I think about it, probably Kroll, but it wasn't because he wanted it. It was because he knew how much I liked the movie, and he bought it for me as a birthday present. I'll get to it. I'll talk about Kroll when I get there. But yes, these are all of the Atari 2600 games I currently have in my collection. Most of them are games that I had as a kid. Some of them are games that I had bought when I got back into collecting in the late 1990s and early 2000s. And whatever is not from that is games that I always wanted, or games that I've seen in videos on YouTube and all that. And I think they look kind of cool. And I said, you know what, I might want that. So I bought them. So I'll let you know which game is in which category. What's up, Dan? How's it going? The cover art, yes, I do actually have Tim Lapatino's Art of Atari book because I do agree Atari games were like, I think the reason why they were so popular and why they sold so well is because that artwork on those games were freaking fantastic. It was beautiful. It was like looking at Frank Frazetta art a lot of the times. And like, that was also kind of what I think was the failing of the Atari, was the artwork on the front was so amazing. And you'd be like, you get like Adventure, and you'd be like, oh, this dragon, it looks amazing. It looks like a freaking badass. And then you play the game, and it's like this little seahorse looking thing jumping around. And you're like, oh, I got lied to. You know, that was at least the way my dad kind of looked at it was. I was just kind of like, I don't care, video games. You know, I hope it's a video game in that cartridge, and there usually was. You know, the kids do. So let's get into the games I have. Starting off with, just brought it up, Adventure. This was one of the first Atari games I got as a kid. I want to say my dad bought this at the same time as he bought the Atari back in like 79 or 80 or whatever it was. What year did this come out? That is a good question. 1978. Holy shit. So it was probably 79. I could imagine. I was a kid. I could imagine that badass dragon. My dad was old. You know, imagination was gone. It flew away with the rest of the birds south. But yeah, I played the living crap out of this. Absolutely. Day in, day out, over and over and over. I would always try to beat it faster than the last time I had beaten it. I honestly didn't really know about that Easter egg thing that they did in Ready Player One, where there's like a wall you can go into and you have to like hit the right pixel and you can go through the wall and the creators or the developers' names are hidden in the game somewhere. I didn't really know about that. I found it by accident. Honestly, I was just fucking around while I was playing it one day, and I was like, what's this thing? Oh! I just want to play the game. I saw the guy's names. I'm like, I'm just going to go play the game. Is that okay? All right, I'm going to go. Reset. It's an adventure game, obviously. Usually, that's the other thing about Atari games. The name basically tells you what you're getting. It's not like, you know, The Last of Us, where the name tells you that, you know, it's going to be depressing a little bit. Doesn't tell you what the story is, doesn't tell you what's going on. Adventure, it's an adventure game. You get, you know, combat, it's a combat game, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, you play as a little dot and you pick up a little sword that looks like an arrow, that like actually looks like a pointer. And you have to kill a dragon, find a glowing chalice, and bring it back to your castle. And game over. Restart, do it again, harder difficulty. Ready Player One, yeah, that movie was... I love the book and the movie. I saw the movie in 3D the night before it opened in IMAX. Oh, orgasm! Especially when the Kroll glaive showed up and they threw it at your face in the 3Ds. My eyeballs! Oh, it was consensual. But yeah, I still love playing this game. It is super simple. Honestly, I know a lot of people that I knew back in the day, like after they played Legend of Zelda, like, this is the most generic thing ever. I don't care. It was well-programmed, it's fun, and I can still play it nowadays and not get bored with it like in 3 seconds, like a lot of these kind of games from this generation usually do. I need to make sure I organize these in a way that I can put them back on my shelf. And if you know me, yeah, I just wanted to move some pixels. Exactly. I just wanted to play the damn game. That's, you know, why I had the joystick in my hand and sitting so close to the TV, I should legally be blind. I wanted to play the damn game. I didn't give a shit about who developed. Nowadays, I give a crap about the developer. I did give a big crap about it, but back in the day, I was like, I just want to play these games. If you know me and you follow this channel for, I don't know how long, whatever, you know how much of a Tron fan I am. I'm a huge Tron fan. I'm thinking after I finish the video game collections and then I go into the movie collection video or live streams, I'm not thinking the last collection video that I do is going to be my Tron memorabilia collection. Because I absolutely love Tron. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, both films. Saw it when it first came out, was not impressed. Saw it again with my family, was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. I get it. It's pretty cool. And then the more I saw it, the more I liked it. Well, of course, you got a movie that's about being sucked into a video game. There's obviously going to be some video games about being sucked into a video game. It's like Inception. It had to happen. So Atari and Intellivision got all of the Atari games at home. And this one is Adventures of Tron from M Network, which is technically Mattel. This is the worst one out of the 3 that came out for the Atari 2600. No, there's 2 for the 2600. There's 3 for the Intellivision. This is the worst of the 2. It's just because it's kind of vague what you need to be doing. There's like these platforms. You can see your little Tron guy. Looks like every other Mattel character right here. You just have to go up each level and try to avoid the things that are coming after you. There's tanks, there's recognizers, there's the grid spiders. And it's just like get to the top, and then once you get there, you're like, what do I do now? I've got to go up another set of levels? Oh, okay. It's just kind of... It felt like it was one of those games that was just kind of like rushed out the door to capitalize on the popularity of the license. My daughter still gets close to the TV as possible when she's playing. Why? We have a stupid big TV that hangs on the wall a foot and a half above your head, kid. My OCD appreciates your game organization. I am beyond OCD. Everything is like, it has to be in order, otherwise I can't find it. Yeah, I mean, I love it because it's Tron. Don't get me wrong, but it's not my favorite Tron game. Could have been a hell of a lot better. This one is on Brett Weiss's... Okay, so I'm in a couple of Brett Weiss's books. I'm in his 2 NES books. I'm in his 2 Super Nintendo books. I'm in another one that's coming out about... I think it's like obscure consoles or something. I do talk about one game for the Jaguar and one game for the 3DO. But his previous books like cover like sections of years, like groups of years. And he did one about like the Atari, and he said this was like one of the worst Atari games. Well, I beg to differ. I love you, Brett, but no. What's up? Oh my God, Show Me Retro's here. Oh yeah, Tron in the arcade. If I could afford that arcade one-up of Tron, I totally would do it, but I'm not paying $800 for that. So I can become even worse of a hunchback trying to play because it's so short. But it does look super cool. If I could find one discounted somewhere, I'd definitely buy it. I'd probably put it right back here. But the game I'm talking about is called Airlock. It's kind of like playing Donkey Kong, except you play as this Tron wannabe. So here's another example of awesome artwork. I mean, that guy looks like he's straight out of Tron. He's like Tron doing the hurdles at the 200 meter run. And what you're doing is you're like in a submarine that's sinking, and there's, what is it, 4? I think there's 4 levels you have to get through, and they make it look like there's these things crawling around trying to get you. What it really is are, if you look at the cover, the torpedoes are loose on each floor, and because the sub is sinking and it's tilting back and forth, the torpedoes are rolling back and forth along the ground on each level. You have to jump over them, kind of like Donkey Kong, and when you're playing as Mario and Donkey Kong, you're jumping over the barrels. You have to keep on going up the levels. When you get up to the top level, you get out of the submarine, game over, start over at a harder difficulty. I always liked this one. It was really simple. It was really fun. It was easy to pick up and play. There was no crazy, like, I got to figure out what the hell it is I'm looking at kind of situation that a lot of Atari games had. It was pretty self-explanatory just from looking at it, especially if you had played Donkey Kong, like I said. So I always enjoyed this one. I liked it a lot. Brett says this is one of the worst games on the Atari. I say phooey on you. But I always enjoyed this. I still think it's fun. I played it on my Retron 77. I think I ended up playing it for like a half an hour, 40 minutes. And I just kept on cycling through, level after level, because it's not the hardest game either. It looks awesome. Never understood the hate for this game. I didn't either. I always got a kick out of it, even when I was a kid and as an adult. It's just fun. That's the thing about the Atari, is as simple and dumb as some of these games are, they're still fun. Here's one that I didn't have when I was a kid because my parents refused to buy it because it was based on an R-rated movie. But when I got back into collecting in the late 90s, I found a loose copy of this game at this like out-of-the-way retro game store for like $1.50. And I was like, oh shit, there was a game based on this movie. I love this movie. I must play this game. Wasn't prepared for what the game ended up being. So we're talking about Alien. You see a lot of plastic protectors on these games. These games that were released by 20th Century Fox are just slightly too big for those protectors, which kind of sucks. But whatever. This one's also a little... I wanted to get a protector because this one's a little bit crushed. I was going to buy this at the Midwest Gaming Classic in 2019, and I saw it on Saturday, and I was like, I'll wait, because the guy that was selling it, I think was selling it for like $60 or something like that, and I'm like, no, I'll come back on Sunday and I'll barter with the dude. I'll try to get a lower price, and it was gone. So I ended up having to get a copy of this off of eBay, which I did end up getting for a hell of a lot cheaper than I would have paid for at the convention. Anyway, so Alien, you're thinking, I'm going to have a flamethrower. I'm going to be running around the corridors of the Nostromo, torching an alien or trying to hide from the alien, trying to escape from the alien, get to that shuttlecraft, get the fuck off before it blows. No. This game is Pac-Man. You play as, I'm assuming, Ripley, and there's a bunch of aliens and there's a bunch of face huggers running around. You have to collect pellets before they get you to go on to the next maze level. Not exactly what I had in mind when I found out there was an Alien game. So back in the late 90s, when I bought the loose card, I was like, this is going to be great. And then I go home and play it, and I was like, oh, no. But it doesn't mean it's not a fun game. If you, it's one of those things where if you like strip away the license and you just play the game for what it is, it's actually not that bad. It's honestly a lot better than the version of Pac-Man we got on the Atari 2600. So there is that. But I still love this game. I still think it's pretty fun. The initial disappointment aside, I really do enjoy this. Isn't that a Pac-Man clone? It definitely is. Phooey. See, I'm actually rested right now, so unlike the Mo GameCon pickup stream I did on Sunday, where I was like mentally and physically exhausted, and I was stammering over my words, and I couldn't put a goddamn sentence together to save my life, this is fully rested Chris. So you're going to get, the phrases, I guess. And Daddy need a drink, so hang on. I want to avoid getting the dry throats. So here's another one that I had when I started collecting in the late 90s. I found this, I think, at the same store where I found Alien. Was not aware of what this was, but it's called Amadar. This one's by Parker Brothers. And I think the reason I picked it up, none of these carts have like pictures of the gameplay on it. I think the Alien actually did instead of the poster art. But it was so small I couldn't make out what the hell I was looking at. So this one just says Amadar on the cart, so I didn't know what it was. And I'm thinking Donkey Kong clone. Turns out it's not. Oh, I actually have this upside down. So it's like I got to flip it this way. I need to turn that around and put it back in the box. So what it is like playing Kicks, if you've ever played Kicks. You're playing as a paint roller, and you have sections of wall, and you need to block off a complete section. They're all. You see how it's all broken up on each of these pictures by those lines. You need to follow those lines, cut off a section, and that becomes filled in with paint. You need to fill in all the sections of the wall with paint to go on to the next level. And it just gets harder because enemies start coming after you and stuff like that. I did not think I was going to like this game when I brought it home because I started playing and I was like, oh, this is nothing like Donkey Kong. But then I started playing and I was like, not too shabby. It's kind of a cool idea. You can even see the main character you're playing as with his paint roller. So I ended up really enjoying this game. Did not realize it was based on an arcade cabinet either. I had never seen the arcade cabinet of this ever. And I've played the Journey arcade cabinet, or the Journey the Band arcade cabinet. So it's a thing. It's actually pretty fun. It's not the greatest thing ever, but, whatevs. So this is another Mattel game. I had never played this when I was a kid or in the 90s. The only reason I have this, and I think one other game in my collection, is because when I bought Adventures of Tron, it was like a lot of like 3 or 4 games from Mattel. So I ended up getting like 2 games, because I think discs of Tron came in there too. I got like 2 extra games that I'd never played before mixed in with them. And this one is Astro Blast. It's like your typical like rip off of I almost said Strange Invaders. That's a movie. Space Invaders. Yep, pretty okay. I remember Amadar in 2016. Yeah, it's fun in like a short little spurt. It's not something I play all day every day. But yeah, this is like a rip off of like Galaga, Space Invaders, Galaxian kind of thing. Not the greatest, but can't complain because games is games. It's all right. This was my jam back in the day. My dad, I think he was just like hypnotized by shiny things, because we had so many games by that company, Magic, when I was a kid that, I don't know. Like every time a new Magic game came out, my dad found it really cheap. He would buy it. No matter, he wouldn't even read the box. He'd just be like, ooh, and take it. So this one and another one that's coming up, I used to play like all the time. Like if I wasn't playing this other specific game I'll talk about later. It was this or the other. But this one is Atlantis. I absolutely love this game. I wish I had the second one. I wish I played the second one back in the day. I think it was only released in like limited quantities or something like that. Or it's an extremely rare game. But it's like a tower defense kind of game. So you're playing as these 3 turrets in Atlantis. You can kind of see it on the back. So I'm trying to see if I can... So you got these 3 turrets. There's one here, and one here. There's all these ships flying by overhead that are trying to like beam people up from, or like kidnap people that are in the city, bomb the city. And these 3 guns, the 2 on the sides are shoot inward. So you got this one over here that shoots like this. This one over here shoots like this. And the one in the center shoots straight up. So it's like, depending on which direction you're moving the controller or the joystick, you shoot that specific gun. And the ships are like passing overhead. You got to shoot them all down before they can destroy your city, destroy your guns, and you're effed in the A. And it just gets harder and harder and harder as you destroy each wave of ships. It is super fun. Another game with some freaking fantastic artwork. That looks like Argo City from Supergirl, if it looked good. I played this for hours on end. I remember I played this for, I want to say like 4 hours one time when I was a kid in a row. My dad was like, "Can I watch the news, please?" I was like, "Nope, you can go upstairs." Absolutely love this game. It's one of my all-time faves. Used to play this one a lot too. Found this at, it's still sealed. I found this at not video games then and now. What was it called? People Play Games. People Play Games. It was my retro video game store. It was on Clark in Chicago. I used to go there at least once a month. Always had good stuff. Always had good prices. Really, like, rare stuff showed up once in a while, too. I remember one time they had a CDI. Some guy sold, like, a CDI and, like, an entire console collection for it. I remember I walked in there one day, and the guy that was always running the register, he didn't own the place, but he was, like, the guy that was on call all the time, the guy that was, that worked every day almost. I remember I walked in there one day and he was just like, all those Link and Zelda games just showed up for the CDI. And I was like, good for you. But I used to play Battlezone all the time when I was a kid. And I found this when People Play Games closed down in Chicago. They closed down, I think it was the same weekend as the 2019 Midwest Gaming Classic. That weekend was their last weekend they're going to be in operation. But about a year later, the whole thing was that they had shut down because the guy who owned the building sold the building because it was going to get torn down and made into condos. The guy that owned the building never did that. So the guy that owned the game store had left all of the games that were left in there when the store shuttered. He left them in the store until the guy that owned the building said, "You need to get this stuff out because the building's going to get demolished." So for a whole year, that game store was just filled with games that weren't going anywhere. So he reopened for like a weekend. He got permission to reopen the store for a weekend to try to clearance all that stuff out so the store can finally close. And that place was a madhouse. I had to fight people over Atari games. And this was the one I think that I got out of the stack that was there. And I liked it. I wanted to get it because it was sealed. It's a tank game. It's based on an arcade game where, honestly, in the arcade game, it was what do they call it? The vector graphics. And you're looking through like a periscope to play it, and you're just shooting other tanks on the battlefield. Obviously, you can't do that on an Atari. So instead, you get this like view of the tank in the front, and then all the other tanks and whatever vehicles are coming at you. You just got to turn toward them, shoot them, rinse and repeat. It was fun. I played the crap out of this back in the day, but there's another game similar to this that came out for the Atari that I will talk about later. I do believe I own it. Take a little snake pig over here. I think I have. No, I don't have it. Holy crap. I know what I'm buying next. There's another game called Robot Tank by Activision that I played even more than this. That is, I think is an even better tank game. I know what I'm buying this weekend. Shit. This one I got in a lot. I'm probably going to get rid of it because I really don't give a crap. But Breakaway 4, it's like a collection of 4 variations of Breakout. You have the barrier at the top, you got the little bouncing ball and the little paddle at the bottom. You got to bounce the ball around and break all the blocks. Yippee skippy yahoo. I don't care. You need a paddle to play it. I do have paddles. I can play this with my little paddle controller for the Retron 77. It's going to be fantastic. But yeah, I really don't care about this. I've never been a huge fan of those breakout style games, except for maybe Devilish, because of the way they kind of mess with the formula, and Arkanoid maybe a little bit because you got power-ups and stuff. But this is just different configurations of blocks, break all the blocks, yippee. Excitement. So I might be getting rid of this one in the future, just because I don't give a crap. On the other hand, we got the Burger Time. This also came in that lot of M Network games that I got with the Tron games. One of my favorite arcade games. I was contemplating getting that arcade one-up that had this in it, just so I could play it like the arcade authentic version, but I only have so much room in my apartment. But whole concept of the game is a bunch of ladders, a bunch of platforms, a bunch of parts of burgers. You're playing as a chef. You're being chased by hot dogs and eggs, whatever, and you have to walk over the sections of burger to make a burger. So starting at the bottom and going to the top, you got like the bottom bun, then the burger patty, then the cheese, then the lettuce, and then the top burger bun. And you have to stack them up on the bottom like you see there. And each time you run over a part of the burger, you lower it a level until it lands on the plate at the bottom, and then you have to keep on doing that over and over again. Only weapon you have is a bottle of or a little pepper shaker that you can throw in the eyes of the hot dogs and the eggs that have eyes that can be peppered. Video games, whatever. I always liked it. It was super fun, really challenging. It gets really hard later on in the levels. The different configurations of the platforms and everything get kind of F with you in a little bit. But I always loved it. Loved it. Obviously, the NES version is better. Boogie Time. Maze Craze. A high level of graphics for Atari. Oh, for Battlezone? Yeah, the back looks better than the actual game looks. Maze Craze sounds familiar, but I don't own it. I might have played it back in the day. Can't be positive. Next up, I found this randomly at a half-price books for like $3, so I picked it up because it was complete in box, and I like the games made by Sega. That's Carnival. Plays like the real arcade game, which I've never played, so I have nothing to compare it to. But this was also available on the ColecoVision. All these Sega games were like ColecoVision games, and they got ported over to the Atari, if I remember correctly. But I honestly cannot tell you what this one is about. I don't think I've actually ever played it. Whatevs. It looks like Food Fight, sort of. It just says ready, aim, fire. It's the closest thing you'll ever find to an old-fashioned shooting gallery. You'll blast away at a wide variety of moving targets. As you test your marksmanship and skill, track them down, line up shots, and fire at will. Use each bullet wisely because your ammunition is limited. How many targets can you hit before you run out of bullets? Okay, so it's a targeting game. Or, shooting gallery. Yay! The only thing that sucks about this is it has got like water damage at the bottom, or someone spilled coffee on it or something, or someone like shot poop water on it. I don't know. But yeah, whatever. Each of these games is complete, by the way. It has the cartridge and the manual inside. I will not buy an Atari game unless it has the manual at least. But yeah, like this new one. We got to see the Chopper Command. I also picked this up at that one weekend sale at People Play Games when I got Battlezone. This was the other game I got there. But yeah, like you said, you got the cartridge, not in the greatest shape, but also has to come with the manual. I will not give it the time of day, because tracking down a manual for an Atari game from like the frickin' 70s or 80s, yeah, that's not going to happen. That's going to be a pain in the butt. So if it doesn't come with it, I don't buy it. And that's all there is to it. When it comes to the Atari, there's two development companies or publishers that I always could count on, and that was Activision. I know that's kind of saying something now, but Activision and Imagic were the ones where if I bought one of their games, I knew I was going to get something that I was going to want to play. And Chopper Command was pretty cool. It was kind of like playing what's that game called with the helicopter? Scramble, I guess, for the arcade. We're playing as this chopper, and you're just shooting down other airplanes and then bombing, vehicles on the ground. Nothing crazy, nothing nutso. It's very simple, like every Atari game. But yeah, I wish it's kind of stupid when like, I guess they were just expecting people to buy this game based on that awesome, I love the artwork for the Activision games too, with the rainbow that always manages to work its way into the artwork somehow. But like, there's absolutely nothing on the back except the description of the game. What did they expect people to do? I don't get it. Here's a Magic game. This is the other one aside from Atlantis that I used to play like all the time, and that's Cosmic Arc. Another game with awesome artwork, although we're going to start seeing a pattern showing up here in the artwork for these Magic games. Because at one point, they started using like pictures, like real pictures of things. And like they were using like models and like kit bashing models together to make weird looking spaceships and things for these pictures. So, you can sort of see a little bit of Star Warsiness in there a little bit, but you're going to see some like, I don't know, trademark kind of stuff happening in another one later on. But Cosmic Arc was you play as this gigantic ass ship. You can see it in the center of the screen. And there's like two different screens. There's one where you're approaching a planet and there's a meteor storm. And you can shoot in four directions. You can shoot up, down, left, and right. And there's meteors coming from each direction. And it turns into how fast can you react to shoot them. Depending on what direction you move the joystick, you would shoot in that direction. Once you pass that, you go down to the planet. And you have to collect 2 of each species that you encounter. So it's like Noah's Ark. So you go down to the planet. There's usually a male and a female alien running around. You go down in this tiny little, you can kind of see it on the cover, this tiny little mini ship. You can kind of see it here, and beam up each of those aliens. The only thing is, on each side of the screen are these like 2 guns that are constantly raising and firing in a pattern, and you need to shoot or beam up those aliens and avoid getting shot. It gets really hectic later on. The asteroids come at you so fast that you sometimes have barely any time to react. The patterns for the guns when you're down on the surface become kind of erratic and hard to predict. It is super fun and super challenging, but I loved the ever-loving shit out of it. I played this so much. Oh, I wish there was a sequel to this. Can we get a modern-day update to that? I worked for Activision. We got cool patches that had that rainbow integrated into the art. Yeah, that rainbow thing that they managed to work in everywhere. I thought that was a cool touch. Like what do they want to call it? Like continuity throughout their products, so people knew, like, even if you didn't see the Activision logo, you'd be like, oh, that must be an Activision game because of that rainbow thing. Activision was always the best. They could never get the licensing for Activision games for the flashbacks. Yeah. I just wish that their current games were of the same quality. Next up is Dark Chambers. Never played this back in the day. When People Play Games was closing in, 2018 or whatever it was, they were doing like these, before, like leading up to the closing, they were like doing these, like each weekend, the amount of savings that you would get on games would get higher and higher. I went there when there was like 30% off of everything in the store. They had a bunch of Atari games that they didn't have room for on the floor, like behind the counter. And I remember I was buying a bunch of stuff. I bought so much stuff there that weekend. Holy crap. I went there 2 days in a row and I spent, I think, $400 each time I went. Did I mention I'm nuts? And I saw this game behind the counter stacked up with all these, it was like ColecoVision games. They had war games for the ColecoVision. They had 4 copies of it that were sealed. There was ColecoVision games, there was IntelliVision games, there was a couple of Atari games, and this was one of them. So I asked the guy that was working the register, I'm like, can I see that real quick? I'm curious. And it turns out this was like one of the really late Atari 2600 games that came out like in the late 80s, maybe even the early 90s. And when I looked at the back, it kind of looked like Temple of Apshai, which I used to play on my dad's Atari computer. It looks like a straight-up RPG. Like mixed with maybe a little bit of like Gauntlet. So I was like totally over. I'm like, give it to me. I just need to have it. And I think it was like $6, 30% off $6. Whatever. Here's some cash I got laying around. I didn't pay you in quarters. And I ended up playing it, and it is super fun. It is kind of like playing Temple of Apshai. It's like you're running through these dungeons. You got like 4 people in your party or something like that. It's really cool the way it's done. It's not something you would expect to be on the Atari 2600. This kind of was one of those games that like went beyond what you expect an Atari game to be. There's like relatively few of those out there. But for me, I was like, holy shit. So I was super stoked that I managed to snag a copy of that. Let me see. Motif. I do not have any Activision patches No, sorry. I never did any of that high scory stuff. I didn't really care when I was a kid. I just wanted to play them games. Here's another Magic game. This is where their artwork started getting funny, I guess. At least to me, it looks silly as hell. We're talking Demon Attack. This is probably the game they're the most well known for. It even has like the Game of the Year sticker on it. When honestly, this is like a ripoff of Galaxian or Phoenix. So the thing about the artwork that gets me is these things that are on the cover. It looks like a dinosaur toy that somebody spray painted silver or chrome and then stuck a bunch of G.I. Joe missiles onto it. It's just silly looking to me. Whatever. But yeah, you can see by the back, it is like playing Space Invaders, and you've got these big ass demon-y things coming down at you. You got to blow them all up before they blow you up. The most, tropey game there is out there, tropey genre there is for the Atari. But it is honestly just a ripoff of like Phoenix. But I never really played this back in the day. This is one of the games I got in the 90s. And I remember I enjoyed playing it a lot. I only played this, I think, once since I've actually bought it. But one of my goals when it comes to the Atari is to get all those Activision games and get all those Magic games that are available because I like their style. There's a couple of Magic games I'm probably not going to be able to get, like Atlantis 2, because that is like beyond rare. But anyway, this one I just bought this past weekend on the way home from Mo Game Con. Captain Algebra was there. Demon Attack, yes. Yeah, that's pretty fun. As much as I was ragging on it for being a ripoff of Phoenix, it's actually, I think, better than Phoenix. I picked this up on the way back from Mo Game Con this weekend. So it's Desert Falcon. Never heard of this one either. This must have been another late release 2600 game that came out when I was already on the NES train. So yeah, Captain Algebra and I had pulled over on the way back from Mo Game Con. I think we had just come into Illinois and we were kind of hungry, so we stopped at a Wendy's. And I had mentioned before we crossed the border that one thing that I know other people who are like driving to cons do is on the way to and on the way back from conventions, they stop at all the game stores on the way. Like they look up in advance what game stores are like along their route, and they stop there and buy games and stuff. And I said, I've never done that. As many game conventions as I've been to, I've never actually done something like that. So while we were sitting in the Wendy's eating our lunch, Cap's like, I'm just going to, for the shits and giggles, check my phone real quick to find out if there's a game store in the area. And it turns out there was one like a mile down the street. It was called Primary Colors. I think I still have the card here. Yeah. Primary Colors in Lincoln, Illinois. And we went out there just as they opened at noon. And, okay, I'll talk to you later, Pat. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, we stopped in there. The place was junk. It was like a pile of junk. It was just, nothing's organized. Everything's just stacked up everywhere. There's games on this side of the room. There's games on that side of the room. There's games behind the counter, in the counter. There's games mixed in with the Cabbage Patch Kids. It was toys, games, music, movies, you name it. It was in there. Like I said, it was hard to find anything. But most of the games happened to be centered around the front door, so you didn't really have to go far. So I saw there was a Sega CD game I might have wanted to buy, but I saw this. And I was like, oh, what is this? I've never seen or heard of this Atari 2600 game before. Let me check it out. It was $5. I bought it. Yes, and it does come with everything. As disorganized as everything there was, most of the stuff they had was, if it was complete, like if it came in a box, it did come with everything. So yeah, it does come with the manual. You got the card in there. And it's in really good shape. So I knew nothing about this game before I bought it, never knew it existed. And then when I posted the picture of the games that I had bought over the weekend to Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all that, my buddy over at Foster's Game Reviews was like, that is the best Atari game I've ever played. I'm like, really? This game that I've never heard of before? It's really that good? And he said, definitely. Like, you bought a gem there. And I'm like, I guess I'm playing this weekend. So this upcoming weekend, I'm going to give this game a shot. It looks like a vertically scrolling shmup. So I'm all about it. I'll play the crap out of this, most likely. Retron 77's getting a workout this weekend. Here is another Magic game. This one is another one that I think is kind of funny because of how goofy the thing on the cover looks. This one is Dragonfire. Just look at that dragon. The way he's like side-eyeing you is just kind of like, I might be spraying something soon. I don't know. Just something about it makes me giggle. But this one is kind of an impressive game. I had never played this before back in the day. This was one of those Magic games we never had. I found this at People Play Games during that 30% off sale. Like they always had a ton of Atari games complete in box at that store. They were usually too expensive. Like for an Atari game, I was not willing to spend some of the money that they were asking. When everything's 30% off, everything was 10% off in that store that weekend when I went, because the guy that runs the register, when I walked in, he goes, you've been coming in here for years. You spent a lot of money here. I'll give you 30% off. So I was getting 30% off of everything in the store that I bought. So this one was one of the games I bought because I've always wanted to play it. And the cool thing is it's like a bunch of different games in one. It's one of those games that is like 3 or 4 different kind of screens combined. So you got one where you're running across this drawbridge and you're getting dive bombed, and there's some monsters you got to jump over. And then you got another screen over here, which is kind of like Robotron. What is it? Robotron. Oh, God, I can never remember those damn numbers. 2084 and stuff like that. I think there's 3 total screens. This one's one where the dragon is actually there and you need to kill him. Super fun. It's really creative and cool. That's one of the reasons why I like a Magic as much as I do. And I'm trying to get all their games. So I highly recommend this one if you can pick it up. It's different, and it keeps your interest because there's always all these different play styles. Here's that one I was talking about my dad bought on day one. We got the E.T. I don't think this game is nearly as bad as everyone makes it out to be. Is it flawed? Oh, yeah. It is not very well programmed. It was done in a week or something like that, or 3 days if I remember the story correctly. What was that guy Warshaw that developed this? He was given a deadline of a week or something like that to program a game based on a blockbuster movie. Of course there's going to be stuff wrong with it. Of course it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. He had to come up with shit on the fly. Does it mean it's bad? No, I don't think so. Once you figure out what you need to do in this game, it's easy to just play. So you play as E.T., you're in the forest, like in the movie, trying to build your little device to phone home. There's all these pits all over the place. Some of the pieces of your device are in those pits. You press the button, your neck will raise up, and if there is a piece on the screen, it'll let you know which pit is in it. If you do that, it'll start flashing. Go down the pit, pick up the piece, raise yourself back up, go out and do it again. You got to avoid one of the FBI guys or CIA guys or whatever the hell they are, NASA. They're skulking around in a trench coat trying to kidnap you. And once you have all the pieces of the phone, you put them together, you find your UFO, and you go home and you start it over again. It's like I said, it's not the greatest. Elliot's running around in here too. It's not the greatest game, but it's not nearly as poopy as the AVGN makes out. To the point where I had to make a whole movie just so I could say, yeah, it's not bad. I always enjoyed it. I played this a lot when I was a kid. I didn't care. I love the movie. I love the game. I don't own the game that I think deserves all the hate that E.T. gets, and that's Raiders of the Lost Ark. That game is garbage as far as I'm concerned. It is hot garbage. But this one does not deserve all the hate. Now we're on to the next stack. Here is another awesome Magic game that I never played back in the day. I got this at People Play Games during that weekend where I was getting the deals. That's Fathom. This one is one of my favorite artworks. Okay, so the whole thing is about you trying to save a mermaid. And the cool thing is, if you look at that rainbow that's going across the bars, it starts off as a bird and it slowly morphs into a dolphin. That's exactly what happens in this game. So you are trying to save this mermaid who's trapped in a cage at the bottom of the ocean. You start off playing as a bird, and you need to get to the water so you can transform into a dolphin and then go down into the bottom of the ocean to save the mermaid. And there's levels that are shooting galleries. You got to pass up a volcano that's shooting lava rocks out of it, and then eventually get to the ocean to turn into the dolphin and swim deep and avoid. Kind of like the thing when you're in the dolphin is kind of like that tunnel you're going down in Battletoads where you're on the rope and you're swinging back and forth. It's kind of like playing that kind of thing. And rest of it's kind of like an obstacle course. But you can see the different screens, and it's a pretty impressive game, I thought. I never played it back in the day, but when I bought this from People Play Games, I really dug it. I was like, this is kind of cool. I don't know about this 150 game screens thing it's saying right here. I don't know if that's true. I don't think so. Unless it's randomized. I didn't notice that when I was playing. Whatevs. But this is one of those impressive Atari 2600 games that I always thought, well, when I bought it in 2018, I thought was pretty awesome. And there's another Magic game that I did not have back in the day. I ended up getting this off of eBay when I was like, because of that sale at the at People Play Games when they were shutting down, and then the weekend they shut down was Midwest Gaming Classic, and I found some Atari games there. I kind of got into this Atari mood for like, I want to say a month and a half, 2 months, and I just started buying all these Atari games off of eBay, like willy-nilly, like I didn't care. And this was one of them. I was like, ooh, Magic game, gotta have it. It's Firefighter, not another one of the not very impressive covers. That's just a toy car with some like Getty images, photos superimposed over it of fire. But simple game. You're playing as a firefighter. You got a giant hose attached to the fire truck. Got to put out the fires on the building. Ooh. Not exciting, but honestly, it's actually kind of fun. So I'm not going to complain. So here's another 20th Century Fox game. You're so unfamiliar with Atari games? Dude, you got to get one of those Brett Weiss books. He can tell you all about it. I'm not in any of those. I didn't have this one back in the day, but I did find this. I do believe at the same time I found Alien. Because, like, you know me, you guys know me in licensed games. Me and licensed games are like peas and carrots. I hate to quote Forrest Gump, but I'll prefer Forrest Gump. Movie, got to quote it. I always am like attracted to licensed games because I'm such a movie fan. So when I saw this sitting next to Alien, I was like, oh my God, I love that movie. I must have this game immediately. Flash Gordon. Clyde, I'm bored. This is one of those games that I think is in the same boat as Alien ended up being in, where it was a completely unrelated game, and 20th Century Fox just bought the rights or used movies that they had on hand, you know, licenses, to like sell their games that they were making that were pretty lackluster, I'm assuming. And like they slapped Alien, changed a couple of sprites, slapped Alien on that Pac-Man clone, and then made like a side-scrolling shmup kind of like Defender, and slapped Flash Gordon on it, hoping to sell a few carts. If you look at it, it looks like frickin' Defender. It looks just like it. There's even like the map at the bottom. So not an exciting game. It's not the greatest, but come on, Flash Gordon. Also, I really like the packaging for these 20th Century Fox games. They open on the side. So you can kind of see there's like this part sticking up. It's a tab. You pull that out, and then you can slide like the interior out. So you got this hollow box there. You got the manual, and you got the cart. Like I said, this one didn't have the art or the gameplay on the front. So I just saw the poster of Flash Gordon. I was like, ooh, Ming the Merciless. But like I said, I'm always a sucker for a movie game. Oh, get in there. Did I put it in the right way? I don't think so. Whatevs. You're going over here. Yeah, not excited, not the greatest game, but whatevs. Here's another Activision with the rainbow of quality. You got Freeway. Got this at People Play Games also that one weekend. And the joke I made, I think it was the pickup video, not the collection video. The pickup video I made is like, why did the chicken cross the road? Because he was playing Freeway. Ooh. I wrote that one myself. Yeah, and you can see how much I paid for it too. It still has the tag on it from People Play Games, $7.95. Take 30% off of that, and that's what I paid. It's like playing Frogger, except horizontal. So you're basically a chicken, and you're trying to cross the road. The only thing is when you get hit by a car, you don't get flattened like in Frogger. You get pushed back a lane, and you just keep on going. And I think it takes points away when you get hit too. So yeah, you just keep on trying to cross the road. You get the other side. Nothing crazy. Nothing exciting. It's a real simple game, but most Activision games are simple, but they're really, really fun. Sometimes the most simple games are the most fun. And I got the hiccups. Why? From one sip of iced tea, you get a dick. Don't humor me, Peter. Don't humor me. That was a terrible joke. Picked it. Oh, I still got the tag on it. Shit. Oh, because it's still sealed. I picked this up at my new retro game store, Video Games Then and Now. I went in there one day after work, and they had like a tub by the front door of sealed Atari 2600 games. And they were like real popular titles. It wasn't like, rare stuff. It was just like, generic stuff that everyone usually probably had back in the day. I originally found a copy of Dig Dug. I love Dig Dug. I think it's a fantastic arcade game. Only thing was I didn't notice that since I said these were all sealed, someone had actually like taken a razor, slit the top of the plastic of the seal open, pulled it back a little bit, reached inside and pulled the card out, and then folded it back over on itself, the plastic, and made it look like it was sealed. I picked it up and I was like, ooh, $8. I love Dig Dug. I'll buy it. I bring it home and I noticed that thing has been cut. I didn't notice it at the store, and I open it up and there's no card inside. I was wondering why the box was really light. Probably should have looked, but I didn't. So I brought it back, and the guy's like, well, sorry, but we don't have another copy of Dig Dug on hand. You want to switch it for something else? So I switched it out for Galaxian. You can see the $8 tag on there. Still got to pull that off because it's on top of the wrapper. This is still sealed. Galaxian is a great arcade game, precursor for Galaga, which is, I think, the better game. But it's like a take on Space Invaders. Nothing crazy. You got a little ship at the bottom of the screen that shoots straight up. You got an armada of aliens above. They dive bomb you. You got to shoot them out of the sky. Yay! But it's super fun. I have real good memories of playing this in the arcade and at home. It's a decent port. I picked this one up in Sheboygan when I went to visit It's Rocket Sauce from the Cartridge Club. He took me to a store out there called Freak Toys. I had a bunch of... I had to clear out my storage space, and I found all the toys that I had from not only when I was a child, but the stuff I was collecting in the 90s and into the early 2000s. And I was like, I need to get rid of this stuff. And It's Rocket Sauce from the Cartridge Club was like, hey, there's a really awesome toy store out here called Freak Toys. They buy and sell toys, movies, games, collectibles, whatever you want. They give really good prices, and they usually have a lot of good stuff in store. So I'm like, all right, fine. So I brought like 3 boxes worth of stuff, got like $600 worth of credit, and I spent it on nothing but games, and they had a lot of good stuff. And I'm actually going back there for my birthday at the end of this month. You bet your ass I'm coming back with some cool stuff. But one of the games I picked up while I was there was Haunted House. This was another one of those games I had as a kid. I absolutely loved it. Couldn't figure out how to play it to save my life, because this is one of those cryptic Atari 2600 games where you have to use your imagination. But we're talking about with Brosman, with Midwest. I should get it graded. I love the artwork for this game. I honestly think this is where my fascination with horror movies came from, because I was not allowed to watch horror movies as a kid. R-rated action movies and science fiction movies were just fine. I can watch Arnold Schwarzenegger cut some, terrorist's arm off with a machete, throw a saw blade at one of their heads and scalps them, but I can't watch Jason kill somebody with a machete. That's too much. But like certain things like captured my attention when it came to like horror themed things. And my parents had bought a new refrigerator when I was a little kid. And my brother and I kept the box, put it in the garage, and it became like our little fort thing. And we like personalized it. And I had a lot of artwork from Atari games hanging on the walls. And this was the one that I spent the most time like admiring. I always just loved that artwork with the bat and the eyes and the spider. I just thought that was amazing looking. I absolutely love it. If I could get a poster, like a full-size poster of that, I probably would. The game itself, I don't know what the fuck is going on in here. So you play as like a pair of eyes. You can kind of see them right there. And you're running through this haunted house, and I don't even remember what the point of the game is, but there's bats and mummies and spiders and whatever. Every once in a while, the lights go out, and if you press the button down, it kind of like, I guess you have a flashlight, and it kind of illuminates a little bit of the area around you, so you can kind of see the borders of the level you're in. I'll read the back, because honestly, I still can't remember what the hell this is about. You are stumbling around in the dark, and in a dark and dusty haunted mansion. To escape, find the pieces of the magic urn. You'll encounter giants, hairy tarantulas, vampire bats, and a menacing ghost. Can you find the urn and escape the mansion before you get scared to death? So I'm looking for an urn. I wish I remembered that from when I was a kid. I was probably just running around this game shitting myself, because this game when you're a little kid, like, what year did this come out? 1981. I was probably 5 or 6. I was probably pissing on pants playing this damn game. But whatever. Like I said, I love that artwork. But I was super stoked to find a copy of this complete in the box at that Freak Toys place. Can't wait to go back there in a couple weeks. Next up is licensed games. Why is this a thing? I don't know. Journey Escape. What's up, Mighty Q Dog? What you having for dinner, bruh? So this was one of those games I had when I was a kid. I think my dad found this like super discounted somewhere for like $2 or $3, and he brought it home. We were not really a Journey family. Like my parents didn't really listen to that kind of stuff. I remember hearing them on the radio, and I liked what I heard, but we never owned any of their albums or anything like that. So the fact that my dad bought this, I remember even back in the day, kind of surprised me. But what this game is about is stupid. Okay, so it's basically the Journey Escape cover album, or the album art, right? You know, you got that beetle-looking thing busted out of one of the spheres from Phantasm. What the game is about is, I think you're one of the band members. So that's the band member right here in the blue. And there is like a steady, like a scroll of things coming down the screen at you. Your character is like stationary. You can actually like move back and forth and a little bit up and down. But there's like this stream of things coming down at you, like cars, crazed fans, what is it, like lips, stuff like that. And you just have to dodge the things that are coming at you. And I think if you find the Beetle car from the cover, it like warps you ahead or something like that. I cannot remember. It's been a long time since I played this. Yeah, the Scarab. Yeah, can you get to the famous Scarab escape vehicle before time runs out? Yes. And then the game starts over. It's fun in like short little spurts. I just think it's as funny as hell that I have a game based on a band like Journey in my collection. That someone thought this was a good idea. Then again, I also like Crewball, the Motley Crue game for the Genesis. Enchiladas, delicious! I also found this at People Play Games the same time I bought that Dig Dug and had to exchange it for Galaxian. I bought this at the same time as I bought Dig Dug. And this one is sealed also. It is Jungle Hunt. I absolutely loved this arcade game back in the day. There was 2 versions of this in the arcade, though. Okay, so this always confused me. I go to one place that had arcade games. So my grandmother in Ohio worked at a place that was kind of like a Kmart. It was called Hills. It was a regional department store that was regional to Ohio and Pennsylvania, I think. In the lobby, they always had Safari Hunt. And then I would go to an arcade in Illinois, and we had Jungle Hunt. And it confused the hell out of me because they were the exact same game. But for some reason, they had 2 different names. When it came to the home consoles, it came as Jungle Hunt. I was like, maybe that was the most popular of the 2. I don't know. But whatever. So this is another game that has like multiple screens. There's 4 of them. One is you're swinging on vines, and you have to jump from vine to vine, time your jumps right to get to the end of that level. The next one, you're in the water, and you're swimming, and you're trying to either avoid or knife these crocodiles that are coming after you. Third one is you're running up a hill. There's giant boulders bouncing down the hill at you. You have to jump over the boulders to get to the top of the hill. Once you get to the top of the hill, your girlfriend is going to get boiled alive by these natives who are like standing in front of the pot, like jumping up and down with their spears, and you have to jump over them and grab your girl, save the day, probably get laid, get some of that boom boom, and then start over at a harder difficulty. I played the shit out of this when I was a kid. I absolutely loved it. Holy crap. The arcade hit. Yeah, definitely. I played this as much as I possibly could. And the thing about this is one of those games like, unlike Pac-Man, which got like the crappy port to the home console, this one represented the arcade version very well. Really well. I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. How does Atari do with swimming? What do you mean swimming? Sort of similar how licensing worked for Wonder Boy and Adventure. Yeah, exactly. I remember I played Wonder Boy in an arcade. It was at it wasn't Chuck E. Cheese. It was Showbiz Pizza. What now is a Chuck E. Cheese in my hometown used to be a Showbiz Pizza when I was a kid back in the early 80s. And they had a Wonder Boy cab. I played the crap out of it one day during some kid's birthday party. And then years later, we get the Nintendo, and my brother gets a copy of Adventure Island. I'm playing it like I played this game before. It just had a different main character. What the hell is going on here? Yeah, Hudson just licensed Wonder Boy. It was weird. Gosh darn natives trying to eat my girl all the time. I know, just But yeah, if you're talking about the swimming in that game, it's pretty good. It's kind of moving up and down. Glug glug. Here's one of my all-time favorite games from when I was a kid. This was the reason why I wanted to. I do not own an actual Atari console. I have the Retron 77. because none of the TVs I don't have a CRT or anything like that, so I can't really hook up anything with like the, what do they call it, the coaxial cable thing. None of them seem to work on my TVs. So I was hoping that some HD console would come to, it would happen so we could play our Atari games on modern day TVs. And luckily, the Retron 77 happened. Excuse me. This was the first game I popped into it when it showed up. Kaboom! Like, did the Atari have smooth swimming, or was it kind of rough? No, actually, on Jungle Hunt, it was pretty good. Like, you can kind of see it on the back here, where you're like on the side, and then the crocodiles are coming after you, and basically you're just going like up and down, and you can move forward and back and all that. It worked fine. I had no complaints. But Kaboom, on the other hand, woo! This was one of those paddle games. There's this guy. Oh, there's the rainbow. Taste the rainbow. This guy dressed up like a crook, dropping bombs at you, and you control these like 3 buckets that are stacked up. I think it's 3 or 4. And you use the paddle to go back and forth. It's like playing a modified version of Breakout. Instead of bouncing things back up at the top of the screen, there's things coming from the top of the screen down at you, and you need to catch them in the buckets to extinguish the bombs. And it just keeps on going faster and faster. In fact, more of them. One of the bombs hits you miss one of the buckets goes away. And eventually, once all 3 or 4 of the buckets are gone, it's over. Game over. Start over. Super fun, fast-paced. It keeps you on your toes. I remember, if any of you used to watch the Jace Hall show, it used to be on IGN's website. I think they're still on Hulu. That's how I saw them. Jace Hall used to, I think he's a game developer, movie producer. He had like a show about video games and movies and stuff that he used to do. And he used to tell everyone that came on as a guest that, he was the king of Kaboom. And then finally, I can't remember who exactly the guest was, said, you know what? Put your money where your mouth is, bitch. And they played Kaboom, and Jace Hall was not kidding. It is super fun. I love this a lot. It's one of my favorite Atari games. Paddle. I'm not a big fan of a paddle game, but this one just ruled them all. One game to rule them all. Yeah, I'm a dork. Circular control. Yeah, the paddle. Yep. I should probably show off my Retron 77 at the end of this and that really awesome controller that I found. I'll do that when we're done. When we reach the end of the Atari games, I'll show that off. I'll have to get up for a second, take a little bit of a break. Here's another Activision game. My friend down the street had this one. I never had it. But Keystone Capers. At least that's how I remember it. I think Keith down the street had this, but I did not. There's the rainbow. Each time the rainbow happens, it's a bunch of different shades. I guess it just really depends on the wraparound color scheme for the box. This one was kind of cool because it was another kind of rip on Donkey Kong, where there's like platforms you need to run up to. But the thing is, you're playing as a cop, and there's like crooks running around this mall, and you have to catch them. So you have to catch up to them, try to work your way around to them before they steal everything. And you can kind of see there's like escalators and elevators and stuff you can drop on them, and carts you need to jump over. It was really fast-paced. There's even like a map at the bottom to tell you where everything is, so you can keep track of it. It was really, really fun and really hectic. It was like a real fast-paced game, and it kept my attention at least for a long time. I was really mad at myself because in 2018 at the Midwest Gaming Classic, it was the first year that it was happening at the convention center. Gary Kitchen, who used to work for Activision and program this game, was going to be there. And I fully had the intention of bringing this game for him to sign, and I totally forgot. I got there, and I had brought the stuff that I wanted John St. John to sign. I had brought my copy of Art of Atari for Tim Lapatino. Turns out he lives right down the street from me. God damn it. I run into him at the movie theater down the street all the time. Yeah, I totally flaked and forgot to bring this with, so I never got my Gary Kitchen. All right, have a good night, Dan. Thanks for stopping by. I was pissed at myself for not getting this signed, but whatever. Maybe he'll be back this upcoming year. I don't know. We'll see. Midwest Gaming Classic always surprises me with the guests. Like, out of nowhere, frickin' Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat Annihilation showed up. Whatevs. Here is a licensed game that I hold to a standard when it comes to licensed games. This is the high watermark for licensed games. So if you watch those 31 licensed game videos that I released at the beginning of the year, one per day, when I got to the topic of the game that most represents the license on which it's based, I chose this game, an Atari game of all games. There's plenty of games out there for newer consoles, you know, Genesis, Super Nintendo, PlayStation 2, whatever, that represent the movies that they are based on really well. This one I still think is the best. And that is Krull. I brought it up earlier. This one is still sealed also. Got this super cheap when I first got back into collecting. This was one of the first Atari games I went looking for when I got back into it in 2013. And I have not opened it because I've beaten this game more than I can count. I don't really need to open it. Maybe I'll get it graded. That was a conversation we're having at Mo GameCon this weekend, or this past weekend. So based on a movie that came out in 1983, it's like a fantasy sci-fi film. I still love it to this day. I think it's one of my favorite, like, guilty pleasure movies from the 80s. Yeah, go back and watch my 31 Days of Licensed Games videos. I put a lot of work into those. Lost a lot of sleep. So this does represent, I think, the movie that it's based on the most accurately. It follows the plot of the movie, and the scenarios that they use from the movie actually have to do with the plot and actually help you progress in the game. So I'll explain. So the whole point of the movie is there's this creature called the Beast who visits other planets, and once he does, he conquers them, usually without any resistance. Well, he comes to the planet Krull, and they're like, no, bitch. So there's these, when the Beast lands, he has his troops are called the Slayers. To combat the Slayers, two kingdoms that used to be warring with each other before the Beast showed up on their planet decide to marry their kids so they can unite and take on the Slayer and the Beast together. So the first scene of the movie, or the first scene of the game, is that wedding. So it starts off with Lissa and Colwyn, the leads from the movie, getting married. You can see it in this picture here. You see them walking up the aisle, and then the Slayers come to bust shit up. You have to kill as many Slayers as you possibly can. Eventually, they come so fast that one of them is going to grab Lissa and kidnap her, and then the game continues. Next screen, it actually happens twice in the game. You're on horseback going to the Widow of the Web. And while you're on horseback, there's the mythical weapon that you need to defeat the beast called the Glaive. It's this 5-bladed throwing star thing that you see Colwyn holding here. It's on the ground, and you pass over it on your horse. And if you hit the button on the joystick at the right moment, as you're passing over the glaive, you'll pick it up, and now you have a glaive in your inventory. This scenario with the horse happens twice, so you can possibly pick up 2, sometimes even 3 glaives, and throw 2 or 3 of them at a time when you get to the Beast. So when you get to the Widow of the Web scene, the whole point of the Widow of the Web scene in the movie was the Beast's headquarters, the Dark Fortress, it changes locations every morning. No one knows where it's going to go. It moves somewhere random. Well, the Widow of the Web is like this fortune teller, but she lives in the middle of this giant web guarded by this gigantic fucking spider, and only she can tell you where the Dark Fortress is going to appear tomorrow. So Colwyn and this other guy, Unir, in the movie go to find the Widow of the Web. One of them dies in the process, getting the information, but they find out where the Black Fortress is so they can go and kill that guy. In the game, you have to get to the Widow of the Web, the center of the web, and there are like 8 exits on the sides of the web. Only one of them is the right one to get to the Black Fortress. The rest of them are dead ends. You'll be on the horseback. You'll be going from right to left. You'll get nowhere, and you'll just turn around and go back left to right, go back to the Widow of the Web, do it again. When you get to the Widow of the Web's lair in the center of the screen, one of those exits will light up. And there's even like a screen, like an icon at the top of the screen that shows you where the sun is in the sky. And once it gets to sunset, the location changes. So you need to get to there before the sun rises the next day. So once you get the location, you go to that exit, you do the horse thing again, possibly pick up another glaive, get to the final battle with the Beast, use the glaive to chip away at the barrier holding Lissa back. Once you open it up and you throw the glaive through the hole, Lissa comes out and gives you the flame of her love, just like in the movie. Now you have a flamethrower for a hand, like in the movie, and you can flame the Beast, kill him, start it over again. It's a really fun game. It's a bunch of different types of screens. Each one has a different play style. It's super fun, and I could not get enough of it as a kid. My dad bought this for me for my birthday one year because he knew how much I liked the movie. And me being a shitty kid, I knew all the hiding spots for gifts. I knew where the Christmas gifts were kept. I knew where like the birthday gifts were kept. My dad put this in his desk, and he hid it behind a bunch of files. I knew where the hell it was the moment he came home with it. I saw him come home with the bag. I could see through the bag, and I saw Krull, and I went, ah! So, me being a shitty kid, I did exactly what that dude did to that dig dug that I found at Video Games Then and Now. I slit the plastic open really carefully, opened it up, took the game out, played it for like, a half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour, while my dad was at work, carefully put it back, made it look like it was sealed, and put it back in the desk. I did that like 3 or 4 times before I actually got it as a gift. So, I am a pretty good actor if I can convince my parents that this game that I've been playing like for a month is like something I didn't expect to get. I was like, oh my God, you guys are the best parents ever. Hugs. They never knew that I opened this up. I was like, wow, I expected to be like handed this as a gift, for my birthday, and then right afterwards get dragged up to my room and get a spanking. So I absolutely love this game. It is probably my all-time favorite Atari 2600 game. Hands down. I need to crack this open. I'm not going to get these things graded. You crazy? I need to crack this open and play it. Maybe I'll stream it. You never know. I'm unpredictable like that. Tom told me to watch Kroll years ago, and I still haven't, and now you're enthusiastic telling me if the film game makes me want to watch it. The same with my Christmas games. When I get to my GameCube games, I'll have a story about that. I probably told it the last stream, but whatever. I have a poster in the room. There was I think it was like Phantom City Creative was the name of the website, phantomcitycreative.com. They would do like variations of movie posters, and I bought one of Krull, and it's one of the coolest looking posters I have in my place. It's really rad the way they kind of worked with negative space in it. I have to show it somehow. I'm not pulling it off the wall. They're a pain in the ass to hang up. Sorry. Okay, so this one, another Activision game with another weird way of doing the rainbow. You can see it there. It's different colors. Laser Blast is like a variation of, I guess, Space Invaders. I spent an entire summer playing this game. There's nothing deep about it. For me, it was like that summer where the only thing that mattered to me was high score. And the thing that pissed me off the most about Atari games back in the day was there was no battery backup. So the moment you switch that console off, high score, poof, gone. You had to take a picture of your television to show people that you actually got a high score. And I don't know what it was about this game, but it just grabbed me, and I did not stop playing. I played this for an entire summer, like I said, just sitting there, drinking lemonade all damn day long, holding my piss in, because I didn't want to get up, because if I set the game aside, I'd lose my mojo and all that. So I'd sit there like my fucking bladder about to burst, sitting doing the pee-pee dance, sitting down, sometimes doing the laps around the room while I'm playing. I don't know. So the way it works is there's 3 UFOs at the top of the screen that you control, and there's like turrets at the bottom of the screen. And all you really need to do is shoot the turrets from the top of the screen, and your shots are determined on the way the UFOs are moving and like the direction of the joystick. It gets a little weird sometimes. Sometimes you think you're going to hit the turrets and you don't. They're shooting back at you too, so you can lose all 3 of your ships. Once you lose all 3 of your little UFOs, the game is over. But I don't know what it was about this game, but it just grabbed me and did not let go. I played the living crap out of it for, like I said, an entire flipping summer. And now that I think back at it, I'm like, wow, that was time well spent. Hashtag sarcasm. But one of the first games I looked to get back into my collection when I got back into collecting, because I have super fond memories of that one. Here's another one that I got in that lot with all those M Network games that I was talking about earlier, and that is Lock and Chase. Another Pac-Man ripoff. You play as a cop. You're chasing a bunch of crooks. Is that what it is? No, you're a crook and you're being chased by a bunch of cops. The pellets are dollar bills, from what I understand, and in the center, you see that red box. It's like a purse filled with money, and it's extra points. Collect all the dollar bills, complete the stage or complete the screen, go off and do another one. Nothing crazy. I have a lot of Pac-Man clones in my collection. Whatever. Also, I should probably bring up the way that a lot of people talk about how like the Famicom games are all different shapes and sizes and colors and whatever. Atari has the weird ones. So you know what a typical Atari cartridge looks like? Well, here's a Mattel one. And the reason they look like this is Mattel was primarily developing games for the IntelliVision. And an IntelliVision cartridge looks like this. So what this is actually an IntelliVision cartridge, and they put this adapter on the back of it so it'll fit inside the Atari. Have to do a couple of little programming tweaks to get it to work with the Atari console, but it is essentially a modified IntelliVision cartridge. Weird. Here is another one of these 20th Century Fox games. This one I did have when I was a kid. My dad bought this because I loved the movie. I remember he hated this movie, but because I liked it, my parents bought it for me and my brother. It's called Megaforce. This was like this really weird G.I. Joe kind of thing that was like super tongue-in-cheek. It had Ilea from Star Trek the Motion Picture in it, but this time she had hair. No Kirk unit in this one. But it has Barry Bostwick from Rocky Horror Picture Show in it playing the lead. And from what I understand, he was coked out of his skull the whole time he was making this movie. But it's about a bunch of really crazy vehicles that look like G.I. Joe vehicles, and they transform and shoot out colored smoke. All of them do some kind of secret... They have some secret hidden talent built into each one of these vehicles. And the way the game works is it's kind of like a shmup where you're playing as... I can't remember what his name was. Hawk? I think his name was Hawk. It just says you're a Metro. You're in a machine called the Moto Fighter. It doesn't say the main character's name. Whatever. So you play as the main character in one of those motorcycles, and as long as you're on the ground, you play as the cycle. But once you start to... You can move up and down on the screen, but once you go above the skyline, it turns into a flying motorcycle, and you can shoot planes and stuff out of the sky. But what you really need to do is... You got like these like Maharaj-looking buildings down here. You need to destroy those because that's where the bad guys live. Thinly veiled racism in a video game. Yeah, basically you come across one of those houses, you've got to blow it up. So you do that while you're on the ground, and then you shoot the planes that are trying to shoot you on the ground. You know, from the sky, you fly up there and take them out. Yeah, they jailbroke the Atari. Yep, basically. And then, like when it comes to these 20th Century Fox games, not only is the packaging kind of cool, like I showed you with Flash Gordon, but the carts are a weird thing too. All the carts look different for these things. So this is an Atari cart from 20th Century Fox. It has like the fold-over label like a Genesis game or a Nintendo game. Usually the Atari games, the ones by Atari, have a label for the front and a label for the top. Actually, I got to remember which... Yeah, this goes this way. Come on, get in there. Get in there! Okay, I'll worry about you later. Fun game. Repetitive, because there's really not much to do in it. Here's another one by Sega. Sorry, Coleco. Well, wasn't that Sega? Yeah. Coleco must have bought the rights to the Sega game. Okay, whatever. Here's a Coleco game on the Nintendo. Okay, it's begun. It's begun. The tiredness. A Coleco game released on the Atari, Mousetrap. This is another Pac-Man clone. Yeah, you play as, I think, the mouse, if I remember correctly. You play as the mouse and you're being chased by cats around the maze. And you got to collect the little catnip bits or whatever the hell they are. And the cartridges for these games look strange-ass too. And the thing is, these look just like our ColecoVision carts. So it looks kind of like a normal cart. It has the fold-over label, but then it's got this like dent in the top where the Coleco logo is. Why they couldn't come up with some standardized cart form, but whatever. Everyone was trying to be unique and different. Everyone's got to be a unique flower. Whatever. I think it kept the Atari interesting. Decent game, but like I said, another Pac-Man clone. And then we've got the OG Pac-Man clone. Pac-Man. This port is poop-tastic. Poop-tastic. They say that this and E.T. are the reasons why the video game crash happened in 1983. Because so many people bought copies of Pac-Man, so many people bought copies of E.T. and returned them that the loss of money just made everybody lose interest in video games completely. I don't know if that's true, but whatever. I actually found this CIB version of this, and we're talking CIB. There's no tears, no folds, like no discoloration. This is like almost a perfect, except for maybe some like light tearing up here from where like a price tag used to be. Atari 2600 game, CIB. I found this at Gen Con of all places. Gen Con, the board game, card game, tabletop RPG convention that I used to go to throughout the 2000s and most of the 2010s. No, that was the end of the 2000s. I think the first time I went was 2009. Yeah, it was the first year that I lived in this apartment. So 2009 through like the mid to 2015. Wow, it has really begun. The late 2000s and the mid 2010s. Yes. I found this. They have an auction room at the convention. Never really took advantage of that room because I didn't know what the hell it was. It was just kind of this room off to the side of the convention. Every once in a while I see people sitting in there and some screaming happening. So what happens is if you want to sell stuff, not on eBay, you want to sell it like in an auction scenario live, you bring your stuff to Gen Con, you bring it to this auction area, you tell them what you want your starting price to be and what the maximum price or what like the base price you're looking for is for this, and they will auction it for you and take a little bit of the money that you get for that item. If it doesn't sell, or you just want to sell it outright and not put it up for auctioning, there is a store next to the auction area called the consignment store, and everything that doesn't get bid on or you just throw it over there to begin with goes over there, and anyone can just browse and find and buy whatever's over there. I did that. The consignment store had a ton of video games that first year that I discovered the auction house. Found PlayStation 3 games, PlayStation 2 games, PlayStation 1 games, Sega CD, Atari, complete in-box NES games. I got 2 complete NES games there. So yeah, I found a complete copy of Pac-Man, and although I don't really like this version of the game, it was a completely complete and good-looking CIB copy. And I think it was only 10 or 12 bucks. So I didn't care that I don't like the game. I was like, that's kind of awesome to find that here of all places. A place that is not known for having anything to do with video games. Rarely. There might be a Super Smash competition going on or something like that. But other than that, not so much. But yeah, this game is a terrible representation of Pac-Man. All the mazes look exactly the same. They look absolutely nothing like they did in the original Pac-Man. The programming is so pissy that everything flashes, and if you are an epileptic, this game is your worst nightmare. You will not survive playing this game. It plays like crap. It looks like crap. The sound effect for the chomping is beyond annoying. I remember there's a lot of times where my brother and I would just turn the sound off and deal with silence or play like one of my dad's albums or something. Like we listen to like Crystal Gale while we're playing frickin' Pac-Man. That's how shitty the sound effects were. I mean, it did not feel like Pac-Man at all. It felt like some random bastardization. It felt like a clone. It was a clone of itself. It sucks. But it's also a piece of history because, like I said, this is rumored to have been one of the causes for the big video game crash. So, I had to have it. I got the other one. I got ET. Can you imagine being the guy programming a maze game where you collect dots and get chased by something and then release your game 1 month too late and now everyone said you were a clone Pac-Man? Yeah. So I was talking about like Demon Attack being a clone of Phoenix. Well, here's Phoenix. I got this at Video Games Then and Now. I also got this in that sale where everything was like $8. This one was not sealed, but I did not care. Another game with great artwork. Absolutely love that. It looks like a metal album. It's almost like something that like Meatloaf would have on a cover. And apparently this comes with a comic book. Did I get the comic book? Did I get it? Did it come with the comic book? I think it did. Oh, comic book. I remember these Atari Force comics. They were so shitty. I remember not only the Atari games coming with these DC Atari Force comics, but there was an actual Atari Force comic book you could buy off the newsstands, too. Oh, shit, childhood. Coming flooding back to me. But just like Demon Attack, it's like you're a ship at the bottom of the screen. There's like bird-looking things that come down at you, shooting at you. The only thing in this is you have a shield. And you have limited uses of that shield. Blow up the birds before they blows you up. Yeah, that is so cool. That's another one I'd love to get like a print of and hang it up somewhere. That is just rad as hell. Even the building in the background's got a beak. It's so stupid. I love it. And then the Activision game of all Activision games. Everybody knows this one. How could you not? Pitfall. This was like of all my friends back in the day that had an Atari 2600, every single one of them had a copy of Pitfall. It was like Super Mario Brothers. Everybody had a copy of this. And it's like a platformer. It's like an early platformer. You basically are just running around looking for treasure, trying to get points, dodge obstacles. You got a bunch of crocodiles in a lake. You can either jump across their heads and hope they don't open their mouth while you're doing so and they eat you, or you can swing across a vine. There's like quicksand pits. There's logs that are rolling at you that you got to jump over. There's like you can even see it in the picture, there's like a subground level, and there's like scorpions running around down there. The whole point of the game is just collect as much treasure as you can and get all the points. The game just keeps on looping on itself. It's fun. It gets tiresome after a little while, but I knew people back in like grade school that would just play this for hours and hours on end, and I was just kind of like, yeah, it's cool. I could only hear that sound that Pitfall Harry would make when he would swing on a vine before you're like, oh, just shut this off. But it's a super fun game. The cover, yeah, you ever said that one. Pitfall, the only Atari game I've played, but played it on AOL. Oh, man. You didn't play the authentic cart? Freaking emulating that shit, Peter? Damn, I'm so disappointed. I picked the sequel of Pitfall up at the Midwest Gaming Classic in 2019. I found it relatively cheap. This game is not a cheap game. I found it really cheap. Like somebody just was like, Atari games ain't worth the shit. Get rid of them. I bought it for like $15. So I got a copy of Pitfall 2 Lost Caverns. And this is where like there was a shift in gameplay and the way Atari games were made. I don't know. It's hard to explain. So Atari games did not have music the way that modern day games, even Nintendo games. Every Nintendo game had music playing over it when you were playing. Atari games didn't, because the Atari did not have a good sound chip. People usually were too lazy to program that kind of thing. Like I said, in Pitfall, you might get a sound of like Pitfall Harry swinging. Here, it's like a legit platformer where you actually have to do a lot of exploring, and the levels are huge. And there's a whole bunch of different screens. The graphics are great. I mean, look at that. It had a special chipset in it. Like, I'm going to say, like, you've got your typical, like, Pitfall type stuff here, but then it starts to transition, and you can see the deeper into the, like, you end up going, like, way underground in this game. The lower you get, or the deeper you go, the more things start to change, and it's really impressive for an Atari game. The only thing is, this has, like, excuse me, I got the gases. There's like a special sound chip in here, a special graphics chip, or something about it that makes it almost impossible to emulate on that Retron 77 that I have. Here's a look at a typical game from Activision. It looks like your regular Atari game. You've got the fold-over label, but then it's got like these grips on the side. And Activision branded. I remember this being a super fun game, and it was really, like I said, super impressive for like, but it was a later Atari game too. That was when, like I said, there was like this, like all of a sudden the games were like evolving. It wasn't just like, let's just do a one single screen type of game. Here it's like, let's make this an experience. Let's put something in there other than super hard challenge ramping every time you beat the game. No, let's like make it like an adventure, like where you actually have to go places. It was kind of cool. And then you go and play Nintendo, and you're like, oh, yeah, every game's like that. We didn't have that on the Atari back in the day. We played Donkey Kong and Bouncing Baby. Bouncing Babies, the hell? I have no idea. Reactor, I bought this off of eBay randomly at the beginning of my collecting. I was just buying stuff because I wanted to have, like, games, you know? Here's another one by Parker Brothers. Parker Brothers had another strange-looking cartridge. Also, the thing about Parker Brothers games is they don't open on the top. They're basically like, you got to open them like that. Huge-ass freaking manual, as you can see. This is like a one of the UK Sega Master System manuals. And the cartridge is very angular. It's strange. Yeah, no one could agree on these things. Everyone wanted to stand out in a different way. That's cool. I have more power to you. Reactor apparently was based on an arcade game I had never played back in the day. I had no clue. And I still couldn't tell you what it's about. I remember you have to I think you just have to shut down reactors. I don't know how to do it. But whatever. There's a whole bunch of different types, different configurations. Your guess is as good as mine. Here's another Magic game that I used to play the shit out of when I was a kid. And awesome artwork once again. And that is Riddle of the Sphinx. That is a rad-ass cover. I love that it has like that weird star field effect thing going on in the background. You got the glowing hieroglyphics. You got the pyramids in the back with like a red blood moon coming out over the side of one of them. It just looks really cool. It looks very sci-fi for a game that has nothing to do with science fiction things. So the whole point of this game is you're playing as some dude out in the desert, and you're trying to find the Sphinx, and you're finding puzzle pieces along the way. But the thing is, you're also slowly dying because there's no water. You're dying of thirst. So you have like rocks that you can fling at enemies. There's like scorpions and spiders and stuff like that out in the desert. You got to destroy because they will take you out. But the thing is, as you go, if you don't find oases along the way that have like the water and fill up there, as you are playing, your character will just slowly start to lose speed and move all sluggishly, and then you're dead because you are slowly dying of thirst. It was kind of a cool concept. It was also kind of morbid when you're a little kid. Like, I'm playing a guy who is slowly dying. But I played it all the time. It is really challenging, really hard, but it was kind of a cool idea for a game. I absolutely loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Still haven't seen the one that makes me laugh, like the one that makes me laugh the most out of all these Magic games with their shitty artwork. This one is one of the Activision games I love the artwork for. I love the angle that the picture's taking place at, but that's River Raid, another one of the most common games there is. I love that the plane has come from behind the picture and is now flying away from you, and the rainbow thing is kind of doing that swoop motion. I always thought that was super cool. But yeah, another shmup type game. It's a vertically scrolling shmup. You play as this airplane, and you're just basically shooting every single thing that gets in your way, because if you touch the sides, you're basically flying over water. If you touch like the ground or any island in the middle, you die. You're shooting at other ships. You're shooting at other planes. There's like tankers, bridges, fuel tanks that refill your fuel. It's a really cool game. Another one that I would play for like hours and hours and hours. That art on River Raid looks awesome. Yeah, that angle thing just gets me every time. I think that is the coolest thing. Absolutely love this game. There's a sequel to this also out there that I've never played. I want to. Secret Quest. I got this at People Play Games during that sale, the 30% off sale thing. I got this at the same time as Dark Cavern. Is that what the name is? Dark Caverns. Because this was another one of those games I never heard of back in the day, and I saw it behind the counter, and I was like, let me take a look at that one too. And I look, and it looks like EarthQuest a little bit. The thing that gets me the most about this game is the fact that they pick the most uneventful pictures or gameplay pictures on the back. Yeah, that really makes me want to buy this sucker. But I got it for like $7 or $8 or something like that. And the thing that I think made me want to get it the most is, number one, the artwork on the front is kind of silly. Whatever. It was the fact that they put by Nolan Bushnell, video game designer and Atari pioneer, on the front. And I was like, oh, I remember that they were known the most for like not wanting people to know that individual people were making their games. Like, it was a game by Atari, and you don't know the people's names, that they were actually starting to acknowledge the developers of these games. So I wanted it because of that alone. And it turns out this is also one of the later Atari games to come out for the console. And it's kind of like playing EarthQuest, but without the confusing and like really loud like transitions between screens. And it's also a little bit like playing Berserk, I guess. It's not a great game. It's not that great. Nolan Bushnell, you disappointed me, but it's cool to have. Yeah. Here's another one I'm probably not going to keep. I got this in a lot also. I think I got this with Breakaway. And there was some other game. I don't remember which game it was that I bought that this came with that I wanted. I do not remember. I bought like a bunch of lots of Atari games in box, like when I first got into collecting. And a lot of them had games I didn't want, but I bought them anyway because I want to have games. But now that I'm like going through this stuff, it's kind of like, do I really need these? I'm never going to play them. I don't like Breakaway all that much. I don't like slot racers. It's like playing like pole position, I guess, but just completely vertical. It's not great. It's like slot car racing. The cover art is way better than the game. It makes it look kind of creepy and science fiction-y, but it's like slot racing. You know, when that car is on that little track, it's like a remote control car. No. Yeah. I think it was a lawsuit that caused them to put the devs' names in the boxes. Oh, I can imagine. And once again, one that does put... Why would you not put screen caps on the back? Because this artwork was the thing that was going to sell you. It looks like a Hot Wheels game. Whatever. Probably not keeping this. Probably not keeping Breakaway. Space Attack. Got this in that lot of all M Network games. Never played this before when I was a kid, but this one is a little different. This one is kind of like an early version of Wing Commander. You can kind of see it, where you have like that reticle, and you're just shooting at other ships that are coming at you. Tried something different. It doesn't work out all that well, but can't complain. I bought this game twice. So I had a loose card of this from when I was collecting in the 90s. Got rid of it. Actually, I didn't want any loose carts. One of the things that did not sell when I was selling all those games in 2011 when I lost my job were the Atari games. Nobody wanted loose Atari games. I basically just had those sitting in my closet the entire time I was unemployed. No one wanted them at all. No matter what price I was selling them at, nobody wanted them. Nobody gave a crap. So when I got back into collecting, I was like, oh, look, I've got all these Atari games right off the bat. They're just loose, and I wanted to go complete in box. So when I realized I wanted to get rid of them, I sold them all to Mosley from, at the time, it was Drunken Master Studios. Now it's Retro Cult Home Video is his channel. And he bought all of my loose Atari games, and I had a loose copy of Space Cavern. It's okay. It's essentially Phoenix or Demon Attack, and instead of being like a ship, you're a guy, and you're just shooting things coming down the screen at you. Exciting! But the thing is, I ended up buying this twice. I went to People Play Games during that 30% off sale thing that I had. I bought a copy of this, but I didn't really look at the box. I bought it, brought it home, and when I was taking all the labels off of everything, I happened to look underneath, and this entire bottom tab was gone. It was like somebody had ripped it off. I remembered that they had a second copy there, though, so I went back, and I was like, look, dude, I didn't really pay attention to the way the box looked, the condition of the box. Can I switch it for another copy? I'm like, you have another one over there, and he's like, yeah, go ahead, just take it. So I swapped them out. Yeah, not a great game at all, but whatevs. Here's a classic. And I found a lot of the big classic games at half-price books, complete in box. What? So I'll show what a classic, like an Atari-released game looks like. These are the ones you're always going to see. Like I said, each one, they had like 2 different labels on it, and this is like pristine. Like normally the games from this era, like the labels are peeling, the glue is stopped being adhesive at all, completely. This looks like it's brand new. So there's usually the front label, which has the same artwork on the front, and then you have a separate label for the front, the spine. And like nothing peeling, nothing pulling back, nothing discolored. Sometimes even the glue seeps through the artwork. Nothing like that here. This is a absolutely pristine copy of this game. I was so lucky. And I paid like $5 for this. So can't complain about that at all. And plus it's a classic game that I used to play nonstop. When we got our Atari 2600, the first games we had were Adventure, like I said, this, and Defender. I still don't own a copy of Defender. But absolute classic, basically. Well, nothing on the back. Shit! Ship at the bottom. You got 3 barriers that take shots from the big group of aliens that are above you, slowly making their way down towards you, shooting at you the whole time. There's a UFO that'll go across the screen that's usually blocked by the big group of aliens. If you can shoot that through them, you get extra bonus points. Fun-ass game. Gets repetitive because it's just the same thing over and over again, but it's an absolute classic. Can't go wrong. Oh, and Asteroids. Asteroids was the other one we had back in the day with the beginning. At least RC Pro-Am didn't lie with its cover art. I know, right? Glad they could trade out for you. Yeah, that was, like I said, that guy, he wasn't the owner of the store. He was always the guy sitting at the front register, and he was super nice. And he was giving me free stuff sometimes. When I first got my Turbo Duo, I'll talk about it again in the Turbo Graphics stream, but I went there when I first got my Turbo Duo. I went there like 3 weeks in a row, 3 Mondays in a row. Every Monday I would go there and buy new Turbo Graphics games from their big collection that they had there. And I think it was on the third day, the third time I was there, he was like, you keep on buying all these Turbo Graphic games. He's like, we were given a copy of a homebrew by the guy that made it, or the company that made it. They gave us a free copy so we could play it, and it would hopefully if we liked the game, it would convince us to carry more copies of the game in store to sell. They're like, we didn't like the game, we don't want to sell it in the store, but we also don't want to keep this free copy they gave us. Do you want it? And I was like, I'll take a free game. I don't give a shit. Yeah, the game was garbage. I'll talk about that when I get to that console. Here's another one that I bought at People Play Games when they were going out of business. This is another one that didn't pay attention to the condition of the box when I bought it, but I was like, whatever. I don't want to go back again and exchange it. They didn't have another copy of this, so I would have been SOL. But it's called Space Jockey. It's like a vertically scrolling shooter. It is not good at all. The graphics are poop-tastic, but someone had cut a wedge out of it. But I don't care. What is this game? What does this cartridge look like? This is the company VidTech. These guys were like known to be like the poopy company. So you have another one that looks like a standard Atari game with the fold-over label, but like it has like these caved-in sides on to grab the cart. I guess so you can grab the cartridge out of the console like that. Whatever. It's probably the first time I've taken these games out of the box in years. Get in there. Yeah, this game's not that great, but I got it for like $3, so I didn't care. Another Activision game, pretty much self-explanatory, Stampede. That one's legit got the rainbow on it. And that's exactly what it is. You're playing as a cowboy on horseback, and you're trying to lasso cows. Sounds really stupid. A lot of the games that came out for the Atari were of kind of like questionable material. Not like porny things, but there were porn games. Why would you want to make that into a game? Like, why would you want to make lassoing cattle a video game? Well, actually turn it into something that was somewhat fun. So never judge a book by its cover, y'all. This one I need to get up to grab something because there's more to it. I totally flaked on that. Be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll grab this other things while I'm up here. Oh, no. Where'd you go? Anything over there? No. Okay, I'm back, y'all. Maybe. Okay, so this game was one that my dad had bought back in the day. And it was unique because it required the use of a specific controller, and it wasn't one that was like you only got it with this game. Do the cows fall off a cliff if you don't save them? No, it's not like playing Tremors. Yeah, you can only use this one controller basically for this one game. And the IntelliVision, I think, kind of copied this controller when they made their controller. If this came out earlier than the IntelliVision, I think. This came out in 1982. Might have been about the same time. The concept always reminded me of the IntelliVision. So the game we're talking about is Star Raiders. And you'll notice that it comes in this massive-ass box. It's because what comes with it is the game itself in its own box. Which is strange. I don't remember it coming in its own box when I bought it, or my dad bought it back in the day. I just remember it came in this huge-ass box, and I thought the cartridge was just in here, but apparently it came with this. My dad probably threw this away. But does this come with the comic book? That's the question. Ooh, yes, it does. Maybe. You don't? Oh, boo. It's just a catalog. I thought it was the... sad now. Whatever. Get in there. Anyway, so yeah, you get the game itself that comes in its own box. And in the big box, you get another box, Boxception, because it comes with this touchpad controller, which is flippin' massive. Look at this thing. Where is the slip? Do I not have the slip? Oh, please tell me that the slip is in here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. Oh, I almost had a freaking heart attack, y'all. Okay, so the thing about the IntelliVision controllers is it has like a directional pad in the shape of like a circle at the top, but beneath it is a numerical pad, like 1 through 9, I think, and then I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen an IntelliVision controller. But because of that numerical pad, you had these overlays that you would put over the pad that would coincide with commands for the game. So each game came with its own overlay for the controller so you could do specific tasks. This was the first one of these for the Atari, and it came with this overlay right here that has specific commands. 4-view, the galaxy map, the hyperwarp, the computer turning on and off, and shields on and off. And you just kind of slide this into the controller like so. It like hooks in. There's like little tabs over the buttons. And you would not only have to use the joystick to control your ship, because this is like a into-the-screen shooter. It's kind of like playing an early version of Wing Commander. So you're not only using the joystick to control, and you would be firing with the trigger on the joystick, but if you needed to do some extra stuff, you had this. So you're like, oh shit, I need to look behind me to see what's going on. 4-view. You beat the stage. There's no more enemies. Hyperwarp. Go to the next area. Oh my god, I'm taking all these hits. Put the shields on. Oh my god, a computer. How many hits do I have left? Hit the button for the computer. You need to find out where you are. Hit the galaxy map button. It was very different to have to juggle 2 completely different controllers at the same time, but it made for a very unique game, and I played this a ton, and which is probably one of the reasons why I have such an affinity for Wing Commander and Wing Commander style games to this day. Because I played this so much, like just the extra controller that you had to use on top of the standard one, just everything about it just did it for me. Stay in there this time. So the fact that I was able to find this at People Play Games during that one weekend where everything was on sale, complete like this with the controller, the overlay, the game in its own box, the controller with its own box, I was beyond over the moon. And I only paid like $20 for this. So hells to the yeah. Totally stole that controller. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's a Boxception. I have this box up on an upper shelf out of the way with these strange shaped boxes, and I have the standard game box on my shelf with the rest of the Atari games. So I'm just going to put that right there. Put this back away so I can talk about some more games. You guys want to talk about more games? Because I got more games. I'm acting weird, aren't I? I'm starting to get tired. Probably should take a drink, too. Throat's starting to get a little dry. 1 second. By the way, how is everybody doing? Who's here other than Peter? I see 3 people watching. Who else is here other than Peter? My bro. So here's the one that has the funny artwork for an Magic game. Oh boy, I'm surprised nobody got sued. So we have this game called Star Voyager. But if you take a really close look at this artwork, you will see something that belongs to George Lucas. Do you see it? The underneath of that giant ship is the top of the Millennium Falcon. You can see the like exhaust port things that are on the top of the Millennium Falcon in the back. You could the radar dish. How did the Magic not get sued over that? Like I said, they would just like kit bash spaceship models together and make something weird looking. They weren't even trying to hide it with this one. At least flip it around so you couldn't see it, but whatever. This is another into the screen style shooter, kind of like Wing Commander. Not nearly as good as Star Raiders, but pretty good in its own right. And here's another thing I haven't showed off what these Magic cartridges look like. These are the weirdest ones, I think. The ones with the strangest shape. And yeah, the box is, oh my god, the packaging inside is crazy too. It's like this plastic sheet that you got to bring out that's very fragile. So the cartridges look like a regular cartridge, but it's got this like front flap so you can pull it. You can see that like this thin flap in the front, so you can yank it out of the console. The thing about Magic games is there's like always two variations of each cart. There's the ones like this, which just say the title of the game and have some general information. The other ones actually have the artwork on the box on the cart too. I have a mix of both when it comes to a Magic games. I'm not going for variants or any of that garbage. I'm just trying to get all the Magic games, one of each, if I can. So, yeah, Star Voyager. Game Player. Hey, Game Player, how's it going? How did no one catch that? I don't know, but I caught it as a kid, looking at it, going like, "What? That is obviously the Millennium Falcon. How did nobody see that?" I think the exhaust ports from the top of the ship give it away. Speaking of the Millennium Falcon, oh, there were some Star Wars games on this console. There were some Star Wars games, bro. I'm still missing, I think, 2 of the... Yeah, there's 5, and I have 3. So the first one here is The Empire Strikes Back. This one is probably the most well-known of them all. This is the one where you're playing as a snowspeeder, and you're shooting all of the AT-ATs, or AT-ATs, as I used to call them when I was a kid. And they change colors as you hit them, kind of like a boss in a Nintendo game, until they're gone. And then you just keep on moving on. You got a little map at the bottom of the screen to tell you how many more you got to take out before the stage loops on itself. But look at every single one of those pictures of the exact same damn thing. What the hell? You did not need 5 pictures of the same shit. But anyway, all of my friends, this is another one of those games that if you had an Atari, you had this game. Everyone had this game. And these Parker Brothers games are shaped a little strange too. Did I already show one? Yeah, I did. I showed Reactor. You ain't getting extra shit. Hey, Sean, how's it going? Welcome. But yeah, I always had a soft spot for this. I played this one a lot as a kid because I was the only person in our family that liked Empire Strikes Back. Everyone else hated it because it ended on such a dark note. I was just like, I don't care. It was still Star Wars. So I played the crap out of this, and so did all of my friends. Every one of them loved it. It came out on the IntelliVision also. It was actually a better version of that because I only had like one friend with an IntelliVision, and I played it over there, and I was just like, wow. Wow. No, I'm not doing my, Owen Wilson. Wow. This was the one, like I told this story before in multiple videos and streams, but we got Star Wars Jedi Arena. This game was released broken. So, a game where this was advertised in all the comic books of the day. Like, I was buying comic books when I was a kid from the grocery store and whatever. Every one of them had ads for this game in it. Good to have you, Sean, no matter what what account you're using. So all of my friends are super stoked about this. One of my friends, his parents bought it for him while he was at school, and I was going to his house after school that day just so we could play it. And we were like super excited all day long. There's a new Star Wars game. We're going to use lightsabers. It's going to be amazing. Get to his house, and we could not get the game to work. Like, one controller never wanted to work. Like you plug the controller into port 1, and it just did not want to work. Well, it turns out it was released with like the controls all screwed up. So in order to even play the game, you had to have the controller plugged into port 2, and then you could play. But you couldn't play 2-player like it was designed for, which is stupid. So it was released broken, and I understand this got a lot of returns too because of that fact. My friend was super pissed that he bought it so he and his younger brother can play this, and they really couldn't. I don't know if they actually returned it. I don't remember them returning it, but we never had it when I was a kid because of that fact alone, because I played it at my friend's house. And I was like, no, that game doesn't work. But basically, that drone that Luke is practicing on the Millennium Falcon in the original Star Wars movie that's like zapping him in the ass with like stun bolts, that's floating around in the center of the screen, and it's shooting like electricity, and you use the paddles to control the lightsabers. You have a lightsaber at the top of the screen, which is supposed to be Darth Vader, and there's a lightsaber at the bottom of the screen that's blue, that's supposed to be Luke, and you need to block those bolts with the lightsaber because he's trying to hit the person who's holding it. So you can kind of see the way it's set up. There's a person holding a lightsaber on the top and bottom of the screen. They're trying to hit the person with the lightning, but you're supposed to block the lightning with the lightsaber so it doesn't hit you. That's the point of the game. Not exciting. Not that great. I bought it because Star Wars, and I want all the Star Wars games. The last Star Wars game is Return of the Jedi Death Star Battle. This one I did have as a kid. My parents bought it. I also think my dad bought it again for our Atari computer, and it was a better version of this. But it's essentially, there's like this grid in the middle of the screen separating the new Death Star from the Millennium Falcon. There's a bunch of TIE fighters floating around. You got to destroy them, and every once in a while, a hole will appear in this barrier. That's when, Han Solo and Chewie, Leia have like destroyed the shield generator on Endor. Every once in a while, a hole will appear in the barrier, and you have to get through it before it closes. And once you do, you're at the Death Star scene, and you basically have to bore a hole shooting through the Death Star to get to the core and blow it up, and then it repeats. Not that exciting. It's not the greatest game ever, but yeah, it's a Star Wars game. I had this as a kid. I played it all the time because Star Wars. There's also one based on the Star Wars arcade game, which was that vector graphics game where it's the Death Star run from the first movie. And there's another one that has to do with Ewoks. It's like Battle for Endor or something like that. And it is super expensive because there were not a lot of copies of that one made. So I almost bought a copy of it back when I first got into collecting because it wasn't super expensive. I think it was like $80 or $100 or something like that. And I'd gotten my tax return, and I'm like, I'm going to buy some expensive games I normally can't afford. I was going to buy that, but it was a bid-only kind of thing. It wasn't a buy it now, and I got outbid at the last second, so I lost out, and I have not seen it for sale since. So I'm guaranteeing I will not own that in my collection, but I'm still trying to get a copy of the arcade game. That one is still kind of expensive. Here's another Wing Commander-esque into-the-screen shmup, and it's by Activision. You got Star Master with that awesome little rainbow. No pictures on the back to tell you what it's about, but can't really describe these. They're all the same. Got a little crosshair in the center of the screen. Ships flying around. Move the crosshairs. You hit them till you're locked on target. Fire, blow them up. Game over. Yay. But it's Activision, so it's pretty decent. And then this is the bane of my freaking existence. Tom from Do You Nerd? I was talking to him at Mo GameCon at the Airbnb that we're all staying at. He was talking about getting copies of these games in the series. I used to play these games all the time when I was a kid, even though I hated them. Absolutely hated them because they were cryptic, hard to figure out, overly difficult, like you name it. It was just like something. There was always something going against it. Required you to have puzzle-solving skills outside of the game in order to play it. I was so mad because I wanted that real bad. We're talking those Sword Quest games. The only one that I have in my collection is Earthworld. There's also a Fire World, and there's also Water World, which got a very limited release. It didn't have a whole lot of copies out there. It's hard to come by, especially complete in box. And then there was the final one, Air World, that didn't get actually released. I think there's like a prototype of it floating around somewhere, but it didn't get an official release. There was also a contest about these games where if you could beat it in a certain amount of time correctly, you correctly beat the game, and you show evidence of that, you could win. I think you were entering like a raffle for like a real golden, like there was like a sword, there was a chalice, I think there was like a bowl or something like that, or a scepter, and people were winning these things. They actually gave these things away. There's pictures of them. They actually do exist. I don't remember exactly what it was with this one, but the thing about this game is it's like an adventure game, and you're going from room to room trying to find these items that you need to progress, but you need to do like mini games in order to do it. Like one of them, you got to like run through a waterfall. One, you got to like jump across logs. But the mini games suck. They suck. They're unfair. And another thing is you can't really tell what the items you're picking up are because Atari games, they look like shit. So in order to figure out what you're doing, the game came with a comic book. I was so happy that this copy not only came with the comic book, but the poster. The poster for this is kind of rad. So yeah, here's that challenge I was talking about. You can win this sword. Atari dares you to solve the $150,000 sword quest challenge. You would win this gigantic sword. There was, like I said, there was a chalice for the other game, and then there was like a scepter for another one. And I know they had a picture of the one from Earth that they were going to use with Airworld, but Airworld never got released. So the thing about this comic book is, as you're playing the game, you'll go in a room, and then a series of numbers will just pop up on the screen real quick. And those numbers coincide with a page in this comic book and the number of the panel. There's a clue hidden on all these pages in this comic book, and you need to friggin' go through it with a fine-tooth comb to find them. Like, let me see if I can find one in here. There's usually like a hidden word or something in the background somewhere. Give me 1 second. I doubt I'm going to find one. But I remember, like, it was a clue to how to beat the game, and there's like 5 or 6 clues hidden within the comic book to help you beat it. And it was usually something... There's one. I found one. What does that say? Soar? Spire. Okay. So, like, typical comic book, although it is drawn and you know, like, the artwork is pretty awesome. It's by DC. But if you look at this panel right here of these... Number one, you're getting booty right there. These people sliding down this rope. If you look at the wall really closely, you can see there's a word right there on the rock. I have it upside down. It says Spire. S-P... I can kind of turn it. S-P-I-R-E. I don't know what that refers to, but it has something to do with the game. And as a kid... No real attention span. I'm not sitting there going like, ooh, I'm going to inspect every single frame of this comic book. No. I was like, I just want to play the flipping game. I don't have to do all this extra crap, but apparently that's how the game is played, which I thought was kind of stupid. So if you bought a copy of this and it didn't come with the comic book, you were effed in the A. You had no way of playing and beating this game. Not that I ever wanted to beat it. Get in there, goddammit. Because I found these games incredibly hard and like they just didn't make sense to me. But I have memories of playing this Earthworld and Fireworld extensively as a kid, trying to figure out what was going on and what I needed to do to play it. That I kind of wanted to have them back in my collection again for nostalgia purposes because of that. Brian, just about to ask about the contest. You're on top of this, yeah, brah. Contest was to solve the puzzles in the game, and I don't recall what the prize was for Fireworld. Yeah, I was like... Yeah, there was a sword for this one. There was like a chalice. There was like a scepter, and maybe the Philosopher's Stone was the other one. I remember I saw pictures of them somewhere online, but like I wasn't going to do that kind of crap. When this came out, what year did this come out? 1982. I was like 6 or 7. Yeah, I don't give a shit. It was like 20-year-old guys. I saw a picture of the guy with the sword, the guy who won it. There's a picture of him online holding it. He's like, ah! I'm like, I'm 37 years old. I was playing Atari games and I won this crazy sword. What am I going to do with it? I don't know. I want to LARP with it. I bought this randomly off of eBay because I thought it was a licensed game. I mean, it could be. It doesn't have any official things on it to say that it is based on a movie. Yeah, I just think it shares a name. Oh, yeah, it does. 20th Century Fox Film Corporation. Okay, this is a licensed game. I bought the Towering Inferno. You would think that they would at least try to put like some of the artwork on there from the poster or something like that, but no. Yeah, you're just trying to put fires out in this building. Yippee yahoo! I got this off of eBay. Even the game. Okay, so the front shows that, and the back shows that. Okay. Yeah, I bought this off of eBay for like $10 or something like that. I didn't give a crap. It was completely complete. I don't think I've shown off what these U.S. games carts look like. Get out of there! Oh, yeah, I did. These are the ones that have those divots on the side so you can pluck the card out real easy. Yippee skippy. God damn, Brian. Oh, yeah, I remember you were collecting all those Atari games. I remember you were collecting them all loose. I remember you had that big bookshelf full of them, and I was always like, jealous. I bet J.K. Rowling really wanted to win that contest, so she wrote the Philosopher's Stone so she could hold it. Sure. Yeah, I still need to find a copy of Fireworld. I think I saw one at Mo GameCon this past weekend, but I was just like, whatever. I don't give a shit, really. I mean, if I find it somewhere else, I'll probably pick it up. Not in a rush, because like I said, I hate those games. Although, this game got a ton of play for me because obvious reasons. Tron Deadly Discs. I absolutely loved this game when I was a kid because Tron... This was the one game that came out based on Tron for the Atari that actually felt like it had something to do with the movie, because this is basically that pit game that happened. I think they just show it briefly in the movie when Flynn first comes to the grid, and he happens to like look down and sees Tron deflecting the identity discs from all the other programs and all that. That's basically what this is you're like in the middle of this pit. There's a bunch of other enemy programs shooting or throwing their discs at you. You have to avoid them, hit them with your discs to kill them, and they're also coming out of all of these colored doors on the barrier or like the peripheral of the arena, and you need to throw your discs through them to close them so more enemies can't come out. And I think you can also run through them. Like if I run through the purple one over here, I'm going to come out of the purple one on that side kind of thing. I played the shit out of this, although the one that came out for the IntelliVision is the same game, yet there's more to it. There's like recognizers that show up on the screen and try to flatten you and stuff like that, and the graphics look a lot better. So, hails to the yeah. Yeah, I talked about it earlier. I have Adventures of Tron also. That's the one where it's kind of like, this was like some unrelated game, and they threw a couple of recognizers in there, and they called it Tron. The ones that came out on the IntelliVision were way better. 3 more to go. So, also picked up a copy of Venture. I played this all the time as a kid. This is a very cool adventure game. It also came out for the ColecoVision, and my neighbor down the street when I was a kid had a ColecoVision. Only person I knew that had one, the Norrises. And I remember I played this version of it on the ColecoVision. I was like, why does everything on the IntelliVision and the ColecoVision look and play better than the Atari version? The Atari was very underpowered. But I played the crap out of this. You play as like this little happy face with a bow and arrow or like a crossbow or whatever. And every stage has like 4 areas that you can go into. And once you go inside the area on the big screen, it zooms in, and now you're inside that area in close-up. And there's usually some item in there you need to collect. There's a couple of enemies you need to kill, and you need to finish each of those individual areas to move on to the next set of 4. It was really fun. It does get a little bit repetitive, but it's fun. I always enjoyed it. You can kind of see that's a close-up. Hang on a second. It's kind of like a close-up of it. There's always an exit, 2 exits, one where you come in and one where you can come out. It was pretty fun. I always liked it. This one I got effed on from eBay because this is another one where the guy who sold it did not actually like share pictures of the entire box. So when it showed up, I was like, oh, what the hell? But I couldn't do anything because he actually said in the description there might be some box damage, so he covered his ass that way. But Wizard of War, another pseudo Pac-Man clone, but this time you can shoot. So there's like a maze like Pac-Man, and you're playing as a dude with a rifle, and there's other people running around with rifles trying to take you out. They're supposedly wizards. Why they're shooting guns at you, I don't know. And you got to kill them all before they kill you, kind of thing. It's fun. I liked it a lot. But when it showed up, the entire top is missing. I got fucked. And the final Atari game is also another one of my favorites that I played all the time as a kid, and I love the artwork on this one too. I would totally buy a poster of it if I found it, and that is Yar's Revenge. There is actually a sequel to this that is like a homebrew that somebody made and is selling on the Atari Age website. And I don't know, for the last year I've been, should I go buy that? Should I not buy that? Because it was like $100. And I'm like, I'm not paying $100 for an Atari game. Yeah, the home version is kind of like the arcade. I remember I used to play at friggin' Arby's of all places. But Yar's Revenge is kind of like a fun game. He plays this like bug ship, and you're trying to get to this like device behind this big ass barrier. You have to chip away at the barrier either by shooting it or by eating it. You can like run up to it and like peck away at it. And there's this also like missile that is always tracking you that if it touches you, it will kill you. And the only way you can dodge that is this like energy barrier in the middle of the screen. If you're in there and that thing touches you, that little missile touches you, it won't kill you at all. But once you empty or clear a path to this device in the center, you have to shoot it. Device blows up, start over, harder. Sometimes the barrier actually like cycles, and the bits that you chop away or eat away and shoot at move around, and it gets harder and harder to get to the device in the center. Super fun game. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. I used to have a poster of that in that refrigerator box fort that my brother and I had in our garage when I was a kid. Let's see if this actually comes with the comic book too. Starting to go dry again. There's the manual. There's something else in here. Yep. Comic book. Yeah. Jesus. How do you pronounce that? Cotile Ultimatum. Oh, that is some special artwork there. Cool. I need to start looking at these. I see that there's a manual in there. That's all I freaking care about when I buy these things. I never pay attention to the extra stuff that's in these boxes. But super stoked to have that. So I was saying when I was done with the Atari stuff that I was going to talk about the modern day Atari stuff. Like I said, I don't have a CRT. I cannot attach an actual Atari console to my 4K television. You know, coax stuff does not tend to work very well nowadays. So I needed to find a high def solution. What is it? Retrokin? Is that what their name is? Hyperkin. Retrokin. Hyperkin released a high def Atari console. And that is the Retron 77. Comes with a joystick with two buttons, depending if you're left or right-handed. I obviously played this with my right hand, and the button was always on the left, so whatevs. It has ways to like fry the game. I guess there was a way you could like, what was it, like hack the game or something like that? They called it frying back in the day. There's like a button you can do for frying. It's kind of cool. It works really well. I haven't updated it in a long time. I really need to. It would be super rad if they could get like 7800 capability in here too, because the cartridges are the exact same shape, exact same kind of boards. I don't see why they couldn't. But like I said, I haven't updated it in a while. But the thing that sucks is when I got my copy of Kaboom, I wanted to play it. I bought a in the box. That's the other thing I forgot to grab. Shit. Crapola. I had bought a set of paddles, complete in the box, off of Facebook of all places. Got this off of not the marketplace. I think it was an Atari group that I'm in. Some girl was selling some stuff. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, paddles, Kaboom, hell yeah. Why is it not letting the paddles come out? Oh, that's why. So it's a set of two. And I was super stoked. I'm like, oh shit, I can finally play some Kaboom. I've been waiting decades to play this shit. And plug these into my Retron, and it didn't work. I was thinking it needed some kind of an update or something like that. Probably did get an update. I don't know, because I haven't tried it. Hang on, I gotta friggin' get these back in this damn box. I'll do that later. Eat a dick. But yeah, this thing works really well. The only game that wasn't working on it was Pitfall 2, because like I said, it had a special chipset in it or something like that the Retron did not like. But I could not play any paddle-based game on this thing until I bought the Ranger. Now, what is the Ranger? The Ranger is a new controller that Hyperkin released for use with the Retron. And it's shaped like a Nintendo controller. And it has a joystick that works very well. It has the one button. But the cool thing is, on the side, it has a spinner for a paddle. So now I can play my paddle games. Ah! When I saw this at my local, what was it called? The Exchange? The Exchange is the closest to my house. I literally went like, oh! It's like I saw a Sandra Bullock movie back in the mid-90s. Oh, God! Brian knows what I'm talking about. The net, y'all. The net. I'll fix you later, too. So I was super stoked to get that, because now I could play Kaboom or any other paddle game. Breakout 4. Need a little drinky drink. So They released Kaboom branded. That was a nice button. No, it was mostly her bikini shot on the beach. I was like, I'm going to do things. Anyway, so IntelliVision is next. And I only have 7 IntelliVision games. I don't actually have an IntelliVision. I remember I just went to Half Price Books one day. I think it was the first day where I said to myself, like, I'm going to start collecting again. I'm going to go complete in box. So I sold a bunch of like movies and stuff, like DVDs that I didn't want anymore. I got like $150 at Half Price Books. Went to the game section. I just went, oh, yes! Because they had a ton of IntelliVision stuff complete in the box, even with those overlays that go over the controllers that I was talking about with Star Raiders. So I had the intention of buying an IntelliVision. I know they had one at People Play Games, but then again, I was also saying to myself, I don't have a way to play that because coax. Didn't stop me from buying them, though. But the best one I have is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. This has a different name. It's like Caverns of something. The what's the name of that little handheld console that everyone's been talking about? They just came out with a Versus version, which is like an actual consoleized version of it, where every cartridge they release is like a compilation of other games. I can't remember the name of it. This is on an IntelliVision compilation they have, but it does not have the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons branding on it. It's called like Caverns of something or other. But yeah, I watched a video by Brian's Man Cave, not this Brian, different Brian, where he was playing this. And it's kind of like an adventure game. You have like a big map, and then you also go down into these dungeons. And as you're roaming around, you'll start hearing like this roaring sound. The closer you get, the roars get a little bit more intense. That's where the dragon is. And it looked kind of fun. I think you only have like a bow and arrow or a crossbow or something like that as an analog something. No, it was everyone was buying it during Prime Day. John Riggs was even talking about it. John Riggs talks about it on his channel a lot. I can't remember what it's called. Midwest Retro or Midwest Media Show was talking about it this weekend too. Oh, God, I can't remember what it was called. Whatever, not important. Pretty decent. I hear there's a better Dungeons & Dragons game on the IntelliVision also. This is the early one, and the later one is supposed to be better. I picked this up at Half Price Books because why the hell not? It was just Las Vegas poker and blackjack. I'm probably going to get rid of it. But it has those overlays. So remember I was showing you what those Mattel carts look like, Peter? Well, that's what an IntelliVision cart looks like. It just doesn't have that big back on it, that adapter that lets you play these on the Atari. But the overlays for the controls look like this. And every game came with these, like a set of these for the 2 controllers. I'm probably getting rid of this one because I don't give a shit about blackjack and poker. But all the rest of these, and aside from these 2 that I've already shown, every one of these... Well, no, I got this at Half Price Books too, but it was a different day. But that first day that I went there to buy games for collecting, I found... I take that back. I found all but one. Okay. Sorry. I'm talking on my ass. I'm getting tired. I found Space Hawk. This is an into the screen. Oh, no. You play as a little astronaut guy that's floating around in space. You can kind of see it. The little blue dot in the middle of that space scene. That's your character. It's like asteroids. Yeah, you're just a little guy floating around just blowing shit up. Yay. I found this at the Half Price Books that day also. What did I just see drop out of here? Whatever. Space Spartans. But the cool thing about the IntelliVision was you were able to hook up these modules to it. I think the only one they really released was this voice module, IntelliVoice. Certain games could utilize it. And you would hear like this like voice from war games coming from the IntelliVision in certain games. Excuse me. This was one of them. And this was another Wing Commander style game where you're like shooting into the screen. You got a crosshair, got to shoot things that look like TIE fighters. Lawsuit. But the game would be like, bitch, you missed, and shit like that. I don't know. I wish it told you what it said. Yeah, I can't tell you. I don't know. This I got at People Play Games. The first time I ever went to People Play Games, I went there with my ex. And we were wandering around just because, like, oh, there's a retro video game store. This is before I was collecting. I was like, oh, there's a retro video game store in the city. This is kind of cool. And being the Tron fan, I found a copy of Deadly Discs, and this is actually still sealed because I don't have an IntelliVision to play this on. This is the better version of the game because it's almost like isometric. You can see the battlefield is a little bit different, And there's like recognizers floating around and stuff like that. It is the same but different and better. I used to have this actually displayed with my Tron collectibles out of my living room, but now I have it on the shelf. But the rest of these I found at half-price books. So the only ones I found there that day was Space Barn, Space Hawk, these two, and then later on I found Las Vegas, and I got Deadly Discs and Advanced Dungeons & Dragons at People Play Games. But I did find a copy of Mazatron. This is another weird one. It's not like Adventures of Tron on the 2600. It's actually just weird. You can see the Master Control program there for some reason, but I don't remember. I don't even know what this game's about because I can't play it. I see a recognizer. I see chips. I see like connectors. I see the Master Control program. Whatever. The description is fantastic. A game about computers played against a computer. Thank you, Captain Vague. 99 scoring levels, 12 difficulty levels, 4 maze speeds, 2-phase game of both strategy and action. Survive both phases, and you get to start it again at the next level. Okay. And then I got another Tron game there that same day. This one talks. It's Tron Solar Sailor. I wish I knew it. Oh, it does. The NPC or MCP says, I cannot allow this, or you will regret this. And Tron will say, energy low, get off, get off. Tron wants to get off. He's spewing electrons. This one is, you're on the Solar Sailor from the movie. There's junctions where you can go off into a different direction. You're trying to get to the MCP in the center of the system. But you have to keep on going, like transferring to different energy beams because the enemies will swarm you in certain ones. You can kind of see what tells you what directions the beams travel and all that. It looks kind of cool. Wish I could play it. Retrokin, get on that. Or Hyperkin, Retrokin. I keep calling it Retrokin. Hyperkin. And that's it for the IntelliVision. And I have one game for the ColecoVision, and it's not even a license, like a real game. It's an aftermarket thing. So when I first got into collecting, I was watching a lot of YouTube, watching like Metal Jesus, Pete Dorr, was it Ed 1120, whatever the hell string of numbers, Ed string of numbers, and Gamester 81. And Gamester 81, I felt like he was like the one that wasn't really trying to be a YouTuber. He just wanted to talk about games, and he happened to have a camera in front of him, kind of thing. Everyone else was like, I'm doing a show. So I really kind of identified with Gamester 81 because he just seemed like a regular old dude. And I guess he was coming up on hard times at some point. So he had a video game made based on himself that you could buy through like a Kickstarter thing. And I was like, I like this guy. I think he's really cool. I'll help him out. So he had like different tiers of the game. There was like a limited edition. There was like a special edition and a standard edition. I didn't go all the way and get like the limited one. I think that came in like with like a silver cart in a silver embossed box. And then there was like the standard one, which was like gray. And I went for like the limited, the mid-range one. And it's Gamester 81, the video game. And you can see it's signed by him. It's kind of faint. You can kind of see it. And what this is it's like 3 of Gamester 81's favorite games redesigned so he doesn't get sued, I guess, because otherwise it'll just be a compilation of Donkey Kong, Space Invaders, and Pac-Man. And you can see them on the back. There's like the image from the back of Space Invaders, but the game isn't exactly Space Invaders. There's a version of Pac-Man and a version of Donkey Kong, but the character you're playing as is Gamester 81. So I wanted to help the guy out. ColecoVision is his favorite console. If you were going to Retrovision is the name of the company that he has now that makes the games. Like when they first started off, they were making nothing but Coleco games. So, yeah, whatever. I wanted to help the guy out. This is the only ColecoVision game I own. I plan on buying more because People Play Games had a ColecoVision, but then I realized I really can't play a ColecoVision unless I have a CRT, and there was absolutely zero room for a gigantic-ass CRT in this place. There was nowhere I could put it, literally. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to actively pursue collecting those. And then the last console I'm going to talk about tonight is the Vectrex. You can see my Vectrex sitting right here. I'll try to pull it out without dropping everything on top like I always do. Got this for a steal off of Craigslist. Caught some dude slipping trying to sell his dead dad's shit. Didn't know what the hell he had. Sold me complete in-box games that are worth hundreds of dollars for like $10 each. I didn't say a goddamn thing when I went to that guy's house. But I really enjoy the console, although I do think it needs to be repaired because it makes a super loud buzzing, like louder than standard buzzing sound. Most of them do that buzz. You can fix them. And there's a dot in the center of the screen that just won't go away. It doesn't affect anything. I can't get the goddamn controller out. Get out of there. There it is. I think it's kind of cool the way the controller just kind of folds up into the console itself, so you don't have to like go searching for a controller. It's just always here. And it's all self-contained. So there's that. Catch him tripping, catch him slipping. Those overlays are hard to find. I have always found the overlays with the IntelliVision games when I've bought them. I'm like surprises the hell out of me because when I bought all these IntelliVision games at half-price books, they were not in protectors. I put them in protectors. They were just loose. The boxes were just out. And the overlays were in every single one of them, both of them, which surprises the hell out of me. So I was pleasantly surprised by that. So I have all my Vectrex games over here. Just going to take them out bit by bit. So the ones that I did get a whole bunch of these from Korean food. Delicious. Not the second time, though. I got them at the same time I got the console. The rest I got off of eBay. Got a copy of Berserk. I used to have Berserk for the Atari back in the day, and I absolutely loved it. I was really excited to try a version of Berserk for the Vectrex. The Vectrex is all about vector graphics. You know, those clear lines that look like lasers and stuff like that. It's really cool to see in action on the console itself. But Berserk is not a good game on the Vectrex at all. It's like I remember the game being very fast-paced. The enemies were relentless. It's like this one is just slow and plodding and really annoying. And I was like, nope. If I want to get a copy of Berserk, a good one, I'll just get it for the Atari. I'm sure it's available on other consoles too. Got this with the console. It is called Bedlam. You're going to see a trend happening here with these Vectrex games where it's all about you're like stationary in the center of the screen and things coming at you from the sides, and you have to shoot them all before they touch you. This is one of those games. So you play as this like turret in the center. You see it shooting, and all these things come from the corners of these designs, and the designs change for every stage. You'll see different configurations. And depending on what the configuration is, there are going to be more points that the enemies come out of, less points. They start coming faster, harder, start shooting back. It's fun. It just gets really frustrating because like the enemies get really hard. Another one I got from that dude was Armor Attack. You see how much I got paid for back in the day. I'll be done in probably the next 10 minutes. Armor Attack is a top-down chopper game. Well, you're not in the chopper. You're being attacked by the chopper. You're actually a Jeep shooting at other tanks and other vehicles on the ground, trying to avoid this chopper that's trying to take you out. It's a little complicated. The other thing I forgot to mention about Vectrex games is the screen itself is black and white. Arcade game ports, arcade games in general, are not. They're in color. $25 was a lot. I was trying to remember exactly what Atari games went for back in the early 80s and late 70s, because my dad only bought them when they were on clearance somewhere for like $5. So the Vectrex games each come with like this overlay, just like a Intellivision controller, that each game has their own that you're supposed to place over the screen to not only colorize it, but it also has pertinent information about the game. Like it tells you how many lives you have, like what each button on the controller does kind of thing. Each game is different. Vectrex also has a very still thriving homebrew community. I own quite a few homebrews for this damn thing, and none of them are bad. Most of them try to push the technology as far as it can go. Armor Attack did not. I couldn't tell you if this is ported from an arcade game or not. I don't know. Whatever. Next up is the only Pac-Man clone I have for this console, but it is kind of fantastic. It's called Clean Sweep. This one also has price tags on it, $35. So this is another Pac-Man clone, but the thing is, if you're in a bank, you're playing as the thief. The thief is represented as like this vacuum cleaner looking thing. You're being chased by cops who look like clamps. And these pellets that are around are money. And the thing is, as you're collecting the money, the pouch of your vacuum is going to start inflating. It'll get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. At a certain point, it'll stop being able to be filled with money, and you will not be able to pick up any more of the pellets. So you have to go to this center area that's in yellow, and you drop off the money there. Then you can go back out and collect more. And I think you have to like usually empty it out at least twice or 3 times per stage while avoiding the bad guys. And then the little areas in the corner are kind of like where the power pellets are in Pac-Man, and it makes you like invincible for a little while. It is super fun. Of all the Pac-Man clones I own, other than maybe like Alien, this one I play a lot. I mean, honestly, when it comes to all the games I own for my Vectrex, I play this one probably the most. For me, it's simple, it's fun, it's a real pick up and play, easy to understand, it's fun. Another one I got from that dude when I got the console is one of the expensive ones. It's Cosmic Chasm. It's another one where you're... This one's hard to explain. You're trying to plant a bomb in like the core of the planet, and you're this little ship flying around, and you need to like destroy all the enemies on each screen. And this is like the map right here. This is what a standard stage looks like. You're trying to destroy all the enemies and get to the little hole in the center of the screen. It'll take you down to the next level, and you're supposed to just keep on going down, 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 down until you can actually plant the bomb. Then you got to come back up before the world blows up. It's weird, but it's fun. It's okay. Here is a home... Well, honestly, I don't know if I could categorize this as a homebrew. So I bought this at the Midwest Gaming Classic back in April. The guy that runs that store that I go to all the time, Video Games Then and Now, is like a huge proponent of the Vectrex. Like he backs homebrew games. He sells the homebrew games at his store. Every time he's at the Midwest Gaming Classic, he's got a Vectrex set up at the table, and he's got some weird homebrew game playing on it. So I saw him at the con, and he was selling this, and it's called A Crush of Lucifer. And if you look at the label here, it says the last official GCE Vectrex title lost for 40 years. So this game was done. It was getting ready to be released for the Vectrex, and then the Vectrex got discontinued. So this never actually got an official release. Somebody found the ROM and released a copy, or like released it online, and then I'm assuming that guy from Video Games Then and Now commissioned somebody to do an actual run of this game with complete in box with the instructions, a cartridge, the overlay, the box. And the cool thing about the cartridge is I showed this during the pickup video from my Midwest Gaming Classics video back in April, that the card itself is like clear. Normally they're pitch black, like an Atari card, but this one has LEDs in it, and when you plug it in, it lights up bright red like you're in hell. It's kind of funny. The game itself there's really nothing special. You're like flying along a grid. It's like from like it's in your point of view, like first person. You're flying along a grid, and there's like lines in the way. I'm assuming they're supposed to be like pillars or something that you have to shoot and destroy. And once you destroy enough of them, you get to have a fight with the devil, who you see on the box here in the back. You can see like the demon's face. And this is what a standard stage looks like right here. It's cool. It's fun. I mean, it's like a shmup almost. But I was like, if this didn't get released because it was considered like not good, I could have seen why, because there's really not a lot to it. But I'm not sad I have it. It's kind of cool to have like the lost game for the console. So get back in there. There we go. This was one of the most... Oh, no, this is another homebrew that I got from that guy at Video Games Then and Now. I actually got this at his store, and I played a little bit of this in one of my recent pickup streams, the one where I showed this one off. Between $25 and $50. I remember getting my mom to buy anything was a hard sell because it was all pretty expensive. Yeah, that's why my dad was like dirt cheap when it came to that kind of stuff. He would never buy an Atari game unless it had been clearance. It was like $5. The only one I'd mentioned it when I was at the beginning of the Atari games was the only game my dad bought like brand new right off the bat. Well, two of them was E.T. He bought like the day it came out, and he bought Crawl the day it came out because he bought it for my birthday. And that was it. Other than that, he was like, nope, I'm not paying more than $10 for these bitches. Sorry. The game is Dark Tower. I bought this at Video Games Then and Now. It's a homebrew, and it's a very impressive homebrew because most Atari or most excuse me, most Vectrex games are like single screen type of things where it's like playing a Donkey Kong. There's Donkey Kong ones. There's shmups. There's the ones where you're in the middle of the screen shooting at something that's coming down, coming from the corners at you kind of thing. They're real simple games. This one is like playing an RPG. I was playing a little bit online one day when I was streaming, and it was really impressive. So you're playing as this dude, and you're trying to get to this tower in the background, and it's like in the third person, and the camera swivels around you when you move. There's like trees and stuff. You're going through like the woods. I came across a treasure chest on the ground. I opened it up. I got sucked into a warp. And next thing you know, I'm doing like a mini game that they kind of show right here where you're like walking through this tunnel and there's like enemies hiding behind the walls and you have to shoot them before they shoot you. It was really complicated and it was really impressive because I never thought I'd ever see something like this on the Vectrex. So that's what I'm saying is like even nowadays people are like finding ways to like work around the limitations and do impressive shit. It's pretty cool. I was really happy that I bought that, especially when I was playing it during that stream, and I was just like, I kept on going like, wow. This is not a homebrew. This is a real game. This is one of the most expensive games that's available for this damn console, and I got it for like $10. And that is Fortress of Narzad. Captain Algebra, what's up, TM? How's it going, brah? I'm like losing my voice now. I've been talking for almost 3 hours. Wow, this must be a collection stream because this is exactly what happened when I was doing the other ones back in like 2019 or whatever it was, where I thought I had enough games to talk for maybe a half an hour and it was stretching to 3 hours. Jesus, nothing changes. So tomorrow at work, I'm going to be like, hey, guys. I can really assert my authority as a supervisor now when I'm wheezing. Fantastic. Yeah, I thought I would have been done on right now, but like I said, I like doing these kind of streams because I get to talk about stuff I never get to talk about because no one I know outside of like you guys, Captain, and like the YouTube's community, I can talk games with at length. So this is kind of fun for me. So I take my time. But Fortress of Narzad is another really impressive game. You're playing as, I think you're supposed to be playing as a wizard, but you look more like a tank. And you're in these like chasms, and enemies are coming from this castle in the background, and you need to get to that castle. As the enemies come towards you, you need to shoot at them. But the cool thing is about the design of the chasm you're in, if you shoot at a wall, the shots reflect all over the place. So you might miss one, but you'll deflect the blast off of a wall, and it'll hit one in the background. And you're just trying to make your way up the screen towards that castle and destroy it. It's really cool, and it looks neat, and it plays well. I really enjoyed this one. So the thing that no one really talks about is the fact that the Vectrex comes with a game built into it. If you don't have a cartridge plugged into the side and you just turn the console on, it boots up a game called Mindstorm, which is kind of like Asteroids, I guess. It's an Asteroids clone, and it came with its own overlay specifically for it. I think later on they released this individually when they started making consoles of the Vectrex that did not have that built in. You can buy it on its own. It is super expensive. There's actually a sequel, which I think got like a limited release, Mindstorm 2. I'll probably never be able to afford that. But yeah, when I bought the console, it came with this overlay for Mindstorm. No, it didn't. That was the only thing that I had a problem with. I had to buy this separately online, but I found it for like $4 or $5, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, it's a simple Asteroid clone, no big deal. Nothing special. I bought this one off of the eBays. It's called Rip Off. Another one where you're just flying around. It's a single screen game. So you have like packages or like cargo or something you're trying to protect. And in the center of the screen where it's yellow, that's where your packages are. and you're in this ship that flies all over the screen. Enemies will come from off screen, try to steal your package, and take off with it. You have to shoot them before they can do that. So sometimes they'll pick it up and take it off, or take off with it like a Defender? And you shoot them, the package will stay right where it is, where that character died. The package will just stay there. And you're just trying to defend your cargo the whole game. Not a whole lot to it. It's kind of fun. It does get really hectic and kind of crazy later on. Here's another one that didn't need a port to the Vectrex because the arcade game it's based on was not vector graphics. I want to say this was done by Sega or something. I don't know, whatever. Scramble. It's a horizontally scrolling shmup. You can kind of see it on the back. You can shoot vertically, and you can also drop bombs. And on the ground level, there's like gas tanks you can blow up that fill your gas tank up as you destroy them, kind of like in River Raid. It does not play very well as a Vectrex game. It is really choppy, and it just doesn't control it all like it should. I do not like that. This is another one of the more expensive games I got with this when I bought it for like $10. It's called Spike. It's like a ripoff of Donkey Kong, but it talks, which is kind of cool. So you're playing as Spike. Your girl gets kidnapped by some bad guy, and he takes her up to the top of this like multi-leveled, room or whatever. The only thing is, it makes it a little bit different from Donkey Kong because it's done at an angle. So you can kind of see it right here. It's done at like a weird angle, so it's kind of like facing towards you at like a 3/4 view. And when your girlfriend gets kidnapped, she goes, "Spike, help!" And it's pretty fun. So you have an attack. You can do like a kick. So there's enemies that'll come along and kick you. There's a ladder that you need in order to climb up to the top. You can move it around with one of the buttons that you press will like move it to different locations so you can climb up. But they also scroll. So they're constantly shifting around. So it's kind of hard to gauge where you need to go next and get to the top. And it's actually pretty fun. I like it a lot. It's one of the games I play the most. The most expensive game I own for this is one that I got for $10. And that is Star Castle. I used to play this at the arcade at Showbiz Pizza. So there is a ship at the center of the screen that is covered by all these different barriers. You play as this ship out here, and you're chipping away at the shield. And each one of them, there's 3 of them, and they each rotate in different directions. So you might poke a hole in one, poke a hole in the second one, but they're rotating. One's clockwise, one's counterclockwise. And you need to line up your shot to get inside and shoot that damn thing in the center, blow it up, start over again. Things rotate faster, more ships are coming after you at the same time kind of thing. It's pretty fun. Gets a little bit repetitive. Have I gotten back to chorus yet? No. Tomorrow I'm streaming the last episode of our tabletop RPG campaign. So I won't be able to play tomorrow because I've been doing that directly after work. And I probably won't be able to play it again until this weekend. This is the game that got me interested in collecting for the Vectrex. I had no interest in collecting for this console at all. And then went to Wisconsin with my friends Justin and Elizabeth. There was a half-price books warehouse sale going on out there. And I was looking for games. They were looking for whatever. And turns out there's a store that some of the Wisconsin people that I knew, especially its Rocket Sauce, was telling me about called the Make Sense Variety Store that's in the Milwaukee area that has video games and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, while we're out here in Milwaukee, how about, what's up, Show Me Retro? Welcome back. So I was like, while we're out here in Milwaukee going to this warehouse sale, how about we stop at this Make Sense Variety Store I keep on hearing about? So we go there, and it was pretty cool. They had a lot of really cool games. Everything, the prices were decent. I don't think I bought anything except this, but I saw this in their case, and because of what it is, I was like, I need to have that even though I don't own the console. I just want this specific game because of the license, because I'm a huge fan of this license. So I got Star Trek The Motion Picture. I had no idea that there was a game based on the motion picture anywhere. So when I saw this in that case, I was like, just give me that. I need to take that home with me because Star Trek. And I had no intention of buying a Vectrex. I was just going to have this because of Star Trek. And then I found this beaut right here online, dirt cheap on Craigslist. So I was like, I'll get some buying for the Vectrex now, and I can actually play this. And this is not good. It is not a Star Trek game. Nothing looks like it belongs in Star Trek. It's like an into the screen shooter, like Wing Commander. And there's like UFOs and like these bird-looking things coming at you, and you got to shoot. I don't remember the Enterprise taking on Klingons and stuff like that. I think this was an unrelated game. It was just another space shooter thing that was being developed for the Vectrex. And then GCE decided to license Star Trek the motion picture for it to make it sell. And that's exactly what happened, because this has nothing to do with Star Trek at all. And it's not that great. It plays kind of craptastic. So I was kind of disappointed, but whatever. Next one is another homebrew that I picked up at Video Games Then and Now. And it's called Vector Blade. This one is like playing Galaga on the Vectrex, and it is actually kind of neat. The picture on the back kind of lies to you. It makes it look like it's the screen kind of shooter, kind of like Star Fox. That's like the splash screen. That's it. The actual game is right here, where you're at the bottom of the screen. You got a ship. You're shooting upwards. There's aliens coming down at you. One of them can actually steal your ship. And if you destroy that one that's holding your ship hostage, it'll fall back down. And now you have two ships side by side, just like in Galaga. Now you have double the firepower. It's actually pretty fun. I played a little bit of this on stream one day when I was doing my pickup video where I was talking about this game. And at the end, I decided to plug this in and give it a go. And it's actually pretty cool. Yeah, if you like those old vector graphics games from back in the day, the Vectrex is kind of awesome, but it's like owning an old ass TV. You know, it's gonna have like tube problems. Mine has kind of like a spot in the center where like the lights all converge for some reason. I need to have it looked at, but it plays fine. And the last game I have for tonight is called Web Wars. This is another one of the most expensive games on this console that I got for $10 when I bought this thing. And it's kind of like a deconstructed version of Tempest. Instead of having like a web that is like closed off, where it's like a circle, and you have to move around the border of the circle, this one is always open. It's almost like a chasm. You can kind of see it right there. It's actually better on the front. So yeah, it's like you're moving through a chasm, like the Death Star trench almost. And you play as this like bird kind of ship that has like a tongue. You can shoot enemies that are coming at you, but you can also capture the enemies with that tongue. And the whole point of the game is to collect one of each kind of enemy. And they show it on the back of the box. There's a button you can press on the controller that takes you to like the collection page. And it shows you which alien ships you have collected so far in the game and what their point worth is, which is kind of cool. Kind of changes it up from Tempest. And I really liked it a lot. I had no idea what it was when I bought it, because I bought all this as a big lot. And I was like pleasantly surprised. It's actually pretty fun. So that is it for the Atari, the IntelliVision, the ColecoVision, and the Vectrex. And that is the end of the first stream in the 2022 edition of my video game collection. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope it was fun. I hope it was informative. I hope I didn't talk too much. I've been talking for 3 hours. Of course it was talking too much. What the hell am I fooling? I hope it was entertaining for everybody. I will be back again next Thursday with... I don't know which one's going to talk about. So last time I would try to group everything together, like, the Famicom and the Nintendo. I think I'm just going to do like a Famicom. Well, no, I can't, because I don't have that many Famicom games to talk about. I have more NES games. Jesus. So actually, next time I think it's going to be Sega Master System. Yeah, I think I have enough Sega Master System games to not talk for 3 freaking hours and go completely hoarse. That one might be a short one, because I think I only have like 50 games for the Master System, so that could be okay. I'm gonna try to keep these shorter, but I always said that back in the day when I was doing them originally, and yeah, it didn't happen. So yeah, I'll be back next Thursday evening, 8 p.m. Central, for the next episode in the series. Like I said, I'm gonna go all the way through my consoles that I collect from oldest to newest, then go into my movie collection, and then the final episode will be my Tron memorabilia collection, which I've never shown off, actually. So that'll be new. So thank you, everybody, for watching tonight. I appreciate every single one of you. I'm surprised Brian showed up. Brian, that is so cool that you showed up. I haven't talked to you in so long. And Show Me Retro, who's new to the channel. That's awesome. Captain Algebra, Peter, everybody, thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate each and every one of you. Even Dan showed up. That's awesome. I hope to see you next time. I will talk to you then. Chris, the old ass retro gamer, out. Have a good night, everybody. Stay safe.